Hello, everybody. This is our new show. If you haven't heard, it's called The Talk of the Ages. In this show, it's going to be me, the old head over here, with the young gun on the other side, Mr. Jaylen Lawson. We're going to be giving you a little bit about some of the different issues going on and talking about it just from our different perspectives, coming from the different generations. Oddly enough, we actually line up on a lot of these things. But some of these things he has to kind of almost bring me up to speed on because I don't even know about them. But this is our very first show, so welcome, Jaylen, to the floor. How are we doing today, Jaylen?
I'm alright, man. Same old, same old. Just college, getting ready for my first semester excuse me, in January. And then just looking for a job. So you know how it is from high school to then. It's kind of just like a whirlwind.
I hear you,
Everything's
Jaylen.
coming at you so fast.
We got our very first comment from our good my good brother out there, Atreus. Uh, he says, "Let's go, Brandon." Are you familiar? Well, because we are going to talk about some pop culture on here, so I guess we can. I can ask you: Are you familiar with the "Let's Go, Brandon"? What that's about?
No, I'm not.
Because that's a pop culture segment, and so I figured before I'll give us the topics that we're going to talk about for today. The topics we're going to talk about. Sorry, I got to read it because I don't have the greatest memory. In this first episode, we're going to talk about food and the foods that we're eating today, and um, we'll get more into that. I'll just leave it at foods for now. We're going to talk about what is it, prescription medications, and how the impact that it's having on our society. And we're going to talk about pop culture and pop cultural influences, and just some of our different takes on that. So I figured now that I've introduced the show and what our topics are going to be, I'll elaborate on the Let's Go Brandon. What happened is, while NASCAR driver, I'm not sure of his actual full name, but I know his name is Brandon. There
Oh,
were,
that during.
yes, yes, the F
Was
Joe Biden
this took place
chants.
months ago? This was in 2020, right?
No, 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 no,
When
no. This is recent. This is recent. These are
Oh, I
Joe
was
Biden
thinking of
comments.
the NASCAR incident where I was thinking of the NASCAR incident where they found the Confederate
The
flag in
news.
his car. Yeah, the news.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
that's his name is Bubba something. I apologize. I don't remember NASCAR names that
Okay,
well,
got
but yes, Bubba something. But this is a new one. Apparently, what happened during the interview while they were interviewing this NASCAR driver, apparently they start saying "F Joe Biden," and they kept going on and on with the chant.
it. Oh
And I
wow.
don't know if
Yeah,
I don't
I think
know.
I did hear that.
Yeah, I don't know if the reporter misheard it or if the reporter just tried to cover it up. And she said, "Oh, it sounds like the crowd is saying, 'Let's go, Brandon.'" And it's pretty clear what they're saying. So I was wondering, like, I know how
Yeah.
definitely, our circles are, especially on my show and those who are out there who are familiar with, my content that I put out. You guys know my feelings about Joe Biden, and it echoes the "Let's Go Brandon" chant. But how is it in your generation, in your circles? I mean, how much of them are even involved in paying attention to what's going on in politics?
Mm, eh, not really. They're all interested in other things. But I mean, I do have friends that see it that I can talk to, but it's more like I'm the one that's explaining or showing them the information. So, whenever we speak though, I give them, a way of understanding what I'm conveying. So, for instance, if I'm telling them about no, we can't talk about that. But if I'm telling them about the election and I'm saying why I wouldn't vote for a candidate for a particular reason, when I break it down to them and tell them why, they go, "Oh, well, that makes sense." And then I'll hit them with a video, and then they got something to watch. But
Well, because I
and all
understand
that,
for those
if
who
it
don't
just comes.
for those who don't know, Jaylen, go on ahead and let everybody know how old you are because I know you guys will hear him speak, and for those who really follow my channel quite a bit, you guys might have seen Jaylen already come on a couple of times on, I believe, on the Political Matrix. He's been on what once or twice already, and so it's easy to not really get the gravity of how old he is or how young he is because he's very informed, especially beyond his age group. So let everybody know how old you actually are.
18.
18. And at 18, I can't say that I wasn't politically engaged. I came from a political family, and I signed my paperwork in the military at 17. So I was paying attention definitely to a lot of the events that were going on. I think that definitely my generation, which when I was in high school at 18, I was considered a Gen X at that time. Now somehow I've become a millennial. I don't know how that
Hmm.
works, but
Yeah,
now
I noticed that.
somehow now I'm what's called an elder millennial. For those who don't know,
Yeah.
I'm 40. So I guess I am at the old millennial age. Um, but let's go on ahead and get into some of our main topics. I actually wanted to get into the food the food topic first because that's something that I feel like is it's an understated topic. It's not something that people look into very much. And if you think about it, for the most part, a lot of people are really eating in food deserts. And even if you're not eating in food desert, the way a lot of our job cycles work and our lunch breaks, a lot of people are only left with like a 30-minute break. So a lot of times they're
Mhm.
snacking or a lot of fast food, which is very not healthy. So I was wondering, like, what some of your takes on some of the food that we're dealing with and eating?
Well, just to go on lunch breaks, that's the perfect place to start. So, for instance, well, at my last job, we didn't get a lunch break, but we worked out of plazas, so we'd be in Dollar Trees and Family Dollar, Save a Lots, Harvey supermarkets. So we're standing out there for 6 hours at a time, and in between there, we're going into the convenience stores, maybe buying a pack of Skittles, maybe buying some candy, a Red Bull to keep us up, some water because it's hot, or what else? We just thinking of something quick to eat, so we always stop at what we used to stop at Wawa. So at
Well, that's
11
something
a.m.
I wanted to stop you right there because you brought up
Okay.
something that was interesting. That's something that's different, definitely, from when I was your age to now. There was no
Mhm.
Red Bull. There weren't energy drinks, and that's something that's different with food. That's definitely changed. I don't feel like it's changed for the
Mhm.
positive, but that's I feel like that's a sign of the time, showing that our food's getting more and more unhealthy, and things like energy drinks are
Yeah.
being more pushed on the youth. I mean, and that even goes back into some of the stuff with different soft drinks and sodas. But sorry to interrupt, but I'll let you continue on.
Yeah. So at 11 a.m. we're eating some breakfast sandwich from the gas station Wawa. I don't know if all of you are familiar. It's very popular in the southeast. But or sometimes we're eating a quesadilla or fruit, whatever. We're getting, some chips, Lay's, Doritos, just to hold us down. And on the way back, we're probably eating at a fast food place, Wendy's, McDonald's. And that kind of is your current life, especially when you're young and on the go, or even college students. You're eating a bunch of processed food like ramen noodles. I mean, I'm still victim to it of this day is if you don't, especially in the dorm, you can't cook, you can't really have a hot plate. So you got to just rely on stuff that you're microwave heating to just get you through until you can get your nice warm meal or go to the cafeteria.
And that's something that's actually, that's something that it has upticked, which I thought about that, is one of those negative things. We're eating a lot more processed foods instead of like Archer's brought up McChickens. I would
Yeah,
definitely,
one second.
We definitely
Yeah.
picked out on McDonald's and a lot more fast foods. But stuff like he brings up oatmeal, for instance, that's something which I see less and less kids eating. Cereal. Not that it was the healthiest thing, but I see less kids eating cereal, and it's just more fast food, fast food, fast food. Whereas if you go back to, say, at the time, I remember when kids would go to McDonald's, and McDonald's would be like a special thing. Like McDonald's wasn't something you go to
Mm-hmm.
like once or twice or three times a day. Like I remember going to cousins' birthdays that they would have birthday parties at McDonald's because it was something that it was a once in a while occasion kind of thing. It wasn't something that you always did. Also, they didn't have a such thing as like the dollar menu, which I feel like intrigues more people to rely on fast food than actually having more home cooked meals and things like that. Also, just looking at the different struggle with parents working more and more than they used to. I
Mm-hmm.
remember a time period when uh, there were a lot of parents who were one were single income household where you had at least one parent, whether it was the
Mm-hmm.
mother or the father, who was at home able to prepare, at least dinner for you instead of just okay, let's go on ahead and just get whatever fast food, or even if it's not just necessarily fast food, it could be Um, well, technically, I guess Panda Express and Chipotle and all those places like that are still a form of fast food. But the uptick in processed food, like you mentioned with the with like ramen noodles and things like that, um, the amount of sodium that's put in there, and we don't think about all of these effects of the negative foods that we're putting into our body. These negative effects of the foods that we're putting into our body run up our blood pressure, and we might not
And
notice it when.
not only that, you're adding more onto already something filled with sodium.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of cut out a little bit, but I caught the last part. You said that it's something filled with sodium,
Yeah.
and
No,
we're
I'm saying
and
uh, you're adding
oh no.
seasonings to something that was already filled with sodium.
Hmm. Oh yeah, Thomas says stay away from McNuggets. They got chicken eyeball and leftover parts we don't eat. LOL. I mean, I saw a video that it's pretty much grossed me out. I used to love, like, one of my favorite things was I would go and get a 20-piece McNuggets from McDonald's, and
Mm-hmm.
when I saw like a video of like they literally grind up all of these different leftover parts, and it comes out like a freaking paste, and it's just like a little of paste that they batter. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
it's just disgusting, and we've gotten more accustomed to not even questioning what the hell we put in our bodies. Especially food, or I mean, I feel like, well, people are questioning one specific thing going into our body right now, but I feel while we're questioning that thing, which we won't necessarily talk about, some of the things that we're putting in our bodies, just as even food, that we need to start paying more attention to and actually looking at it like, do we really want to put this in our body? Um, I, I'm
Yeah.
one of the biggest people to say that I used to eat a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was going to ask, well, also on top of the sodium and the effects of this, not only just the sodium, the sugars, the processed food, the yellow dye, and taurine,
The
and
red
all of this
dot
crap that we're
sodium
putting
like
in.
hot Cheetos. Yep.
Well, we
That's a
don't.
big thing I wanted to mention. Sorry to cut you
Uh
off.
huh.
But
No, no, go ahead.
for my generation, the flaming hots go crazy. My friend in high school, because the snacks were, I mean, the food that they gave us for lunch was terrible because we had Meals on Wheels at my school, and then they cut down the vending machines the year after COVID had hit, so there was no vending machines for fear of spread. So he would bring in homemade brownies and the variety pack of chips you get at Walmart, and the bland ones would sell. But whenever he had the flaming hots, those would sell. Takis, those would sell like crazy. But they all had the red 40 dye, and that is terrible. It causes cancer. And I'm a victim because I do like the plain on chips. So we've all been eating them since we were younger.
Well, I'm
Like
not
the hot
gonna
Cheetos, the
I'm not gonna
Takis, the hot
begrudge you. I'm not going to
fries.
begrudge you on that because I still and part of it is we eat these foods at an early age and we get addicted to them, and that's part of the plan. Um, like for instance, I go
Hmm.
to say maybe a generation right before my, or not even that much of a generation, maybe like 5 years before, say, I was in high school. All you had was either you brought
Hmm.
in your lunch or you had what was there. By the time I was hitting high school, they started having the what was it? They had like a little extra part where you can bring in money and you can buy whatever other extra crap that you wanted to buy. So if they had like the special kind of like pizza or burgers or something that was separate, you could go and buy some of that stuff. You can buy like all these different like desserts and snacks, and that's when I started noticing more of a difference from that, from drinking the normal chocolate milk or strawberry milk or whatever that they
Hmm.
used to give. I don't remember. It's been a while. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
he says the Cheetos too. That's the Cheetos
Yeah,
Flaming Hot.
exactly. The extra hot.
That's that red dye that's in there
Yep.
that we don't studies have found that that red dye actually leads to different forms of what is it, colon cancer, I believe. um, um,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so we're not paying attention to all these things, and that leads on to our other segment, which we're going to get into later, talking about
Wait, before
the different.
before we switch,
Well,
can I
that's what I'm saying. We're
actually?
not going to switch yet, but I'll say leading on
Oh,
to
okay.
that.
I was
But
actually about to ask, can I add in a story? So,
sure, go ahead.
a big thing. Me and my so just I used to play basketball in high school, and growing up, I played, and I still play from time to time now. But a big thing is if we ate Takis before practice for going to play, it always used to be a joke like, "Yo, I don't know if I should eat these Takis before practice because these should be taking me out." And it sounds like a low key it would make your chest hurt if you ate a bag and then you started running. You'd be like, "Oh,
Hmm.
like, oh." And so it used to be the joke like, "Oh, we can't eat Takis before we run because they'll kill you."
But that's something that I've saw now that I live on the West Coast. That's something that I've seen a lot more. I guess I don't want to say exactly whose particular culture that's picked it up, but though in a lot of the Hispanic homes they'll have fruit, they'll cover it and just bury it in chamoy and all of this like red pepper and salt and stuff like that. And you're taking something which is healthy and natural for you and making it unhealthy. you know, no, I've
Oh
never
wait,
been a
so
fan
are
of.
you saying? Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, where literally they'll
Oh,
get like
okay.
a
So
whole bunch of different fruit chopped up, and then you basically put it's like a spicy seasoning which you're putting all over the fruit. Now that's not healthy
like
either.
I think it's tagine. Are you talking about like the seasoning tagine or I can't remember the
Yeah,
name.
yes, that's one of the big brand names, but yes, that's
Oh
exactly
yeah,
what
and
I'm
they'll put
talking
it
about.
on cucumbers.
Cucumbers,
Oh yeah, I've actually
cucumbers,
tried it.
oranges, watermelon, everything, any kind of fruit. That's something that I found that's really big, especially on the West Coast, or I'll say more in the Southwest as a whole, because you can see it anywhere from Texas to California to Nevada, anywhere where you have a more, I guess, I would say more of a Central American Hispanic household. That's where I see it more predominant. Also, I notice, and granted, this is something that I feel like is everywhere now. The obesity rates, which are basically taken over all over the United States. When I was in the Midwest, you saw it in certain demographics more than others. I won't specify to try to fat shame
Yeah.
anybody's culture over anybody else's culture,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
as I started to go into the when I started living in the southeast, living in Florida in particular, I noticed a, a different demographic which was being hit worse. And now, once I get out of here, I notice now it's starting to not be certain demographics anymore. It's starting to be anybody that is below a certain economic, I guess, level. So it's hitting blacks, Latinos, and blacks, Latinos, and Caucasians as a whole. The one demographic which I see is kind of not really hitting nearly as much would be the Asian community, and that would also depend on which Asian community you're talking about in particular, because
Mhm.
without trying to pick on a culture, I think I noticed that more the Chinese culture and some of the diet here is not as healthy as maybe say Japanese or Korean. So uh,
Mhm.
I notice even with times changing, you still have some groups where if they're eating more of their traditional meals, that you're not running into a lot of these obesity issues. But I've noticed the obesity issue is starting to become huge, and um, what I notice is we have as a culture went up on what portion sizes, but that's not the whole issue. One of the biggest issues, and me and Jaylen talked about it on Twitter on the Spaces once. It goes into our
Mhm.
beverage content. Now I can't say anything. I got a big thing of soda right here, so I'm not gonna say that I'm not trying to shame anybody, but I'm saying if you go into say let's take Coca Cola for instance. Coca Cola, when it first came out, Coca Cola was something that you would have literally about maybe once a month. It was a special thing that you would have once a month. And the original Coca Cola size was only 6 ounces. Um,
Well,
Obviously, yeah,
mhm.
gonna have, I was going to say, yeah, it went from six
I had a whole
ounces.
other. Yeah, I was actually gonna not jump to something, but something came to my head. I remember when you were saying, and then you repeated it, how getting a soda or going to McDonald's or places felt like a big deal. I remember when I was a young kid, um, it used my mom used we used to ask her to go to McDonald's, and she say there's food in the house. And then as time went by, I started to realize another thing that made it feel less special is the innovations in delivery and Uber. So now it's something that can just come to you. So now it's really like, oh, it's just McDonald's. Who cares? When it can on, you can pay for it to be delivered to you. Even though they rape you with the charge of the price, you end up spending $24 for something that you could get for 10. But that's just taxes and delivery fees.
But that's
And
something
that's
that's
also
even different.
increasing since you just were talking about.
But that's something that's different from my generation to your generation. When I was 18, the only thing that was delivery was pizza or basically Chinese food. I mean, literally, that was the only thing that was delivery, pizza or Chinese food. Now, granted, I did grow up in the Midwest, so it might be a little bit different there. But I mean, that was kind of the. I mean, I guess if you lived in New York or maybe Chicago, you have some local deliveries of other different things, but that wasn't something that was very normal to have all of these different fast foods that you can have delivered to you, no matter where you are. Um, Thomas has a comment here. It says Native Americans have a 35% obesity rate and diabetes. The source of that problem is government ration food and fast food. Luckily, that rate is going down as more natives return to traditional foods. God bless. I'm so glad to hear that. And I don't. A lot of times we don't
Mhm.
even think about obesity rates, especially dealing with Native Americans, because unless you grow up in a state where you have reservations and you're near reservations, you don't think about those things. Now, granted, they have them here in California, but I'm
Yeah.
not really around. Um, I haven't really been around as many Native Americans and been around the Native American culture since I left, Kansas and Oklahoma and in Florida. Like I used to definitely go out to the reservations. when I was still living in Kansas, and some in Oklahoma, and then I would be around, different Seminole or Timuquana or different types of natives, especially in the southeast. But out here on the West Coast, I it kind of gets out of sight, out of mind in a way, and I hate that because I don't want to ever, forget about, especially a good portion of some of my people also. Um, Let's see, we have one more comment. Peace and Chinese only in SoCal back in the day. So I guess it was pretty much the same, most places across the board. Um, I remember at a time, I think it's maybe what 2000s is they started, more deli shops would start getting into the delivery game, and then
Hmm.
eventually it started being, I don't know, when would you say it started where basically everybody started delivering?
Well,
Because
I mean, I'd say around 2016, 2017, around the time in my eighth and ninth grade year, because that's when Uber Eats became a thing. Well, for at least my generation, because me and
oh
my friend,
yeah.
if we spent the night because he lived in a different city, he moved, so whenever we'd go over there, we and his mom wouldn't be home or she'd be out doing something, we'd be like, dang, what do we eat? And then he'd be like, you ever Uber Eats, Postmates, Grubhub? I'm like, no, I've never heard of these. And I was like, oh wait, you can get McDonald's and stuff ordered to your house? That's crazy. It's expensive though, but that's crazy.
Well, now do you know, even now, what is it? I have one right across the street from me, so I'm trying to remember. 7-Eleven. Even Seven
Yeah.
Eleven delivers
Seven
pizza
Eleven
now.
delivers. You can get it from them directly or go through the third party through Uber. It's called 7 They'll deliver it to you.
Yes. Fried bread is
I
good.
even
It is
worked at a oh I pulled over. I used to work at a pizzeria a few years back, and we used to get DoorDash and pizza orders. It's funny because speaking of, they have these huge serving sizes. Like they'll put these digital coupons, maybe that we put in a magazine, or that's not something they have on the menu. And it'll be these deals with two family pizzas and mozzarella sticks, and it'll be one person who, and I'll bring it to the house, and it'll be like one person who's doing
and Atra says
it. And
Apoyo Loco is testing drone delivery in Hawthorne, I think. Wow. Yeah, Hawthorne. You know
oh
what?
wow,
I might need to reach out to him because it sounds like he might not be that far away from me. I definitely need to plug. I need to plug your show and Thomas's show more often. Get you guys some more people coming over there, and then definitely have you both on
mhm.
eventually. But um, I guess Pollo Loco was kind of new for me, coming out to the West Coast. I'm more used to like, on the East Coast we had Pollo Tropical, and so that's more what I'm used
Yeah,
to. Yeah, yeah, I miss that definitely. Um, but I still like a Pollo Loco. Um, Another thing that I notice is the just as a society, how you brought up with the cell phones, we were talking about before we got on. I think
yeah,
that has led to less activity, and with eating worse and having less activity, I think is leading more and more to these obesity rates and some of the issues that you know are coming with that. Now, granted, at your age, now your metabolism is going to help burn through a lot of that stuff. And I'm not quite to the point where my metabolism is completely slowed down either. But when you start getting to 45, 50, 60, what is going to be the effects of how we've been eating as a society? How is that going to affect us when we start getting to the point which our grandparents and great grandparents are? How is that going to affect us when we're in our 60s and 70s? And the answer, I believe, is it's going to lead
yeah,
to more hypertension, more high blood pressure. It's going to lead to more obesity, of course. It's going to lead to more back problems, more knee problems, more ankle, just the whole litany of different injuries, and also cancers because a lot of
Migraine.
this stuff, microwaving, who knows what that's doing to us. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, you
I
were saying?
prefer actually my favorite thing to use is an air fryer or just heat it up on the stove or the oven, of course.
Yeah, we still have some people like me. We're stuck in that microwave generation where we're still trying to get into the air
You
fryer
know, it's funny.
technology.
It's funny. I think the obesity rates for the next generation under me is going to be way worse than even mine could have been. It's funny because my yeah, see, air fryer is useful.
I
I
got
want
one.
one
I'm
too.
still trying to learn all the uses for it though.
I have one that I borrow. I use it from time to
Yeah, right there. He said everybody got an air fryer during COVID. I think
time.
that's true.
Not me. I
Um,
was late.
like I
But,
tried it. We tried it with grilled cheese sandwiches. What was that
mhm.
Sunday? And I still like them the traditional way. I'm still used to like frying it in a pan, old school
Yeah,
style.
with the skillet, yeah, it's more natural.
Now
But
I'm trying to find healthier solutions than like when I was younger, we just slap a bunch of butter in the pan, and fry it up that way, which it's good. It's not healthy, but like for instance, even I had to be careful with a place where I used to love to get wings from. What is the name of that place? Buffalo Wild Wings. I used to wonder why is Buffalo Wild Wings wings so much better than everybody else? Because they still use lard, from what I heard. Which, if you don't know what lard is, do you know what lard is first, Jalen?
yeah,
Because my grandmother, that's all she cooked with was lard
I
back in the day.
actually stopped eating Buffalo Wild Wings wings. Not even because, well, for two reasons. I found a better place, and it just stopped tasting the same. I actually go to this place called Wing Boys. It's funny. You would think this is a horrible eating choice because it's in a gas station in the middle of the hood in some ghetto neighborhood, but they have over 150 different flavors. And
Well, you gotta, but here I will inform everybody for they don't know. He's in Florida, which I know this might not seem like it, but honestly, Florida is the best place I've been for buffalo wings. Period. They
mhm,
literally have so many freaking flavors. It was a place. What was it? It was called Fast Boys,
yeah,
that I used to go to, and I would forget Hooters, forget Wingstop, forget Buffalo Wild Wings. It was Fast Boys was way better, like not even on the same scale as most of these other
I'd
places.
say
Now, look,
this: like if you're a tourist coming here, definitely on the Nada. If you're in the mood for some wings, you'll be able to find a couple of good spots. You can go to your like big names, but the mom and pop shops in the area low key hold it down.
well, there's always, and I find that's what you'll get when you go to different regions. You have certain things with certain places do better. Um,
Yeah, like
and
the wings from the fried chicken wings from the Chinese restaurants. That's big, especially like my mother. She's from Brooklyn, and then being in New York all the time, I used to eat those all the time when I wasn't with my grandparents because my grandparents West Indian, so they cooked more.
well,
That's another thing I did notice too. As far as that's another point we can make as far as just different foods, depending on your cultural background, will also depend on how much fast food you eat. Whereas it tends to be that if you're from more of an American heritage, you're more likely to eat out fast foods rather than when your customs are that of other nations.
true. Well, it also depends on like how many generations removed you are from, like, say
Hmm.
for instance, like if you come from, say, a Latino household and you might be, say, third or fourth generation, you might be a little bit more Americanized and might eat less fast food. Um, Especially if you have a parent or a grandparent or somebody living in the household who has come over, or who at least grew up in another country. Maybe they came over, quite a bit of time ago, but if they lived there at least like into their late teens or 20s and grew up ingrained in the culture, it's a little bit different. A lot of times, like my girl, her father was from Nicaragua, and her mother was from Mexico. And so when you're second generation and you're getting, a different diet, it is a little bit different. Now, Mexican food is definitely not the healthiest, and you can see that on the effects of a lot of people out here. Whereas I noticed a difference between the Latino culture when I was in Florida. Whereas where you have more Boricuas and Colombianos
Yeah, and you have
and
a lot
Dominican,
of people
you
coming,
have yeah, you have
and then
a
you have a
little
lot
bit
of
healthier food, which I
yeah.
noticed.
But another thing is also a lot of them are coming from up north too. So a lot of like that's why I say New York is the tropical. I mean, Florida is the tropical New York now, because mostly everybody here is not from Florida. A lot of people here are from New York.
Well, it depends on which part. It depends on which part of Florida you're.
Well, here in Tampa, like near Central Florida, there's a lot of New
Because
York.
when you get to South Florida, you have a lot more people who are coming directly from the islands.
You have Puerto Indian, Haitian,
you have a lot more Cubanos.
Cuban,
Yeah, you have a lot more
Haitian,
Puerto Ricans,
Jamaican.
Haitians. And so
Mhm.
I think that also makes a difference. And then you have the difference in just weather, which affects some of those things also. If you're not as active and you are in a place where you have higher humidity, that does make you sweat a little bit more, and that does help get rid of some of that weight. But if you're in a place like, for instance, California, where it's pretty decent weather, it's pretty nice and cool, you're not sweating like crazy like you do, especially in Florida, you're not helping sweat off, or whether it's intentional or not, you're not burning off some of those calories. Um, and I think it makes a difference in the Midwest areas like that where you have time periods where you can't go outside, or even in the North where you can't go outside as much. And so you do sit around in the summer and, you get fat, and, no better way to say it. But all of these, and another thing I was going to say, which is different. I guess you froze a little bit there, Jaylen. But um, another thing which I noticed is in the buffets. Buffet was something that was really, really big when I was growing up, which is almost like
Did I
non-existent,
did I just
especially
freeze
with
up?
COVID. Yeah, you just froze for a little bit, but you're good now.
Oh, okay. All right. Continue.
Yeah, but I was saying like the buffets, especially with COVID, and especially with a lot more, Postmates and things like that, and Uber Eats. I feel like it really killed a lot of the whole buffet, places. Like I remember we would regularly go
I
to.
never liked buffet. I never liked
Oh man,
buffet, and they always
but
like those
well,
places like Golden Corral always had roaches. Even if
yeah,
I would go to
well,
I used to go to
well, that's
Brooklyn.
something
And,
that's happened. That's something that's happened over the years where it used to not be as much of an issue as far as having, I feel like service overall has gotten worse in these places. So you have a lot more delivery. Um, Before, you used to have people who got paid a little bit better, so they would
well, also
work a little bit more to keep the places cleaner.
service also got trash because they brought in this new motto that the customer's always right.
Well,
So
that's that.
if you
Yeah,
think I
that's
gotta,
something that goes back to the '80s. That was something that's
the
big
customer,
from the '80s.
in my experience, customer is not always right.
Well, now that's
But you
starting
want
to
to
change
give,
a little bit because of COVID.
well,
With COVID,
yeah,
I think that that's changed a lot more, especially with the people who don't want to wear masks and things like that. Which that's a whole nother issue. But
but
I
if
feel
you're
like let's kind
compliant,
of
but if
no,
you're
no, go ahead.
compliant, then if you're compliant, then you're right.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of these things are starting to change slowly by slowly, but especially in this, they've been having problems retaining workers. That has started pushing more into, okay, let's give our workers a little bit more degree, even though we're not going to pay them more. Let's back our workers when they're getting cussed out instead of just telling them to deal with it. So I feel like that's one thing where it's changed a little bit. Um, since we've talked so much about food and how it's been affecting people, oh yeah, I was mentioning about Coke and how it started out as something where you would only drink it every once in a while, once in a blue moon. Then it started being something where it was like maybe once a week. Then the sizes of it started to increase. You started to have more and more of it. Now it's to the point now where a lot of places, well, New York, I know they ruled out big gulps and things like that, but you still have like giant, super big gulps, and especially like in Florida, you can
Mm.
easily go in a place and go get a 62 ounce, drink like it's nothing, and a lot of that has fueled into a lot more of the obesity crisis, whether we realize it or not. I think that's something which a lot of people don't notice. That just even the sodas drinking is has been a big problem. Oh, go ahead.
Another thing, to jump topics, since we pretty much, well, actually, I did think of something with food. So another thing is, a lot of people, there's another thing that's big for my generation. It's kind of just like you only live once of it. But, this young body we have, as we hear from everybody, our senior, is this doesn't last forever. And I feel like my generation kills their body. Another thing, to switch topics, I think that we could discuss is the effects of vaping. I
Yeah.
think
Well,
that's something that's prominent between, I'd say, I'd go down to even maybe 14 to 25 is the heaviest age ranges. And what the vaping is just the tobacco company's brilliant idea of to get the
well,
smoker.
actually, let's hold on. Let's save. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Let's save that one for when we get into pop culture. Because
Okay, cool.
I think since we've talked about the food industry and the effects of that, we should definitely go straight into the prescription medicine and
Oh,
pharmaceuticals because the food is definitely it's definitely a correlation between us being on more medications and the food that
hmm
we've been eating. I mean, what was here's some of the stats. Let me pull that up. Some of the stats which I had on just let's see, more than 130 million people, 66% of all adults in the United States use prescription drugs. Utilization is particularly high for older people, of course, um,
yeah.
and those with chronic conditions. Prescription drugs, of course, are costly, but that's one of the things. And it says some 73 billion, almost 16% of total healthcare expenditures was spent on prescription drugs. And this is in 1998. So, I
Oh
mean,
wow.
yeah, we don't even want to go where it is at this point now. And a couple of other stats. It says some 40% of men and 66% of women age 18 to 34 use prescription drugs. Use patterns converge as people get older, however. Similar proportions of men and women age 65 and older are prescription drug users. For example, some 92% of men and 90% of women age 80 or older use prescription drugs. Now, that makes sense, of course, because as we become an older population, and people, a lot of people didn't, as many people didn't live to the ages of 70, 80, 90 like they are now. They are going to need more prescription drugs to keep them alive. Going into big pharma and why we talked so much about food before, because I believe that I believe, of course, and I believe Jalen believes also that the food that we've been eating has fueled us in to this heavy prescription drugs community, which we're in, where 66% of Americans are on some kind of prescription drugs. What's some of your thoughts on that, Jalen? Oh, or did I lose you? Or
Oh,
say I
sorry,
got.
I was just
I was like,
handling yeah.
oh yeah.
So
With that obesity rate and the prescription drugs, how that escalated. Let me give you one more stat which I have as far as obesity rates. 99 to 2000, the obesity rates was 29.9. 2000, so that was in 99. Let's jump up to 2017 and 2018. We're at 42% of Americans are considered obese to some level, and that's not even
oh
talking
yeah, we have
about
the highest
mild
levels of
obese,
obesity here.
morbidly obese, and all grossly
Hmm.
obese and morbidly, all these different terms of obesity that they've now created. So it's
Uh,
with that tie with the obesity rates and the food is definitely tying into some of the prescription drugs. Now, we do have some of the prescription drugs for mental health and an array of other things, but I believe, like just like autism, and some of that is dealing with food. Some of that, I believe, it has to do with some vaccinations and things like that. But what's some of your thoughts on all that I've said and some of those stats?
well, just another thing, I was looking at a stat I pulled up, the 10 most commonly prescribed painkillers. Vicodin being number one. We know there's a lot of, Vicodin addicts, famous or non-famous. I'm sure somebody has crossed the lines with a Vicodin addict. The third one that Pop pointed out to me was Percocet. Number four, OxyContin. Number eight, fentanyl. Number nine, methadone, and 10, codeine with acetaminophen, which
Mm,
is which they also mix with hydrocodone and acetaminophen as well.
hmm.
And a lot of people get oxycodone. So say you got an injury, or all right, say you fell and broke your hip. Okay, so you go to the hospital, you get the surgery, but in the meantime, it's not fixing because you work. So you have to balance both, and you get 120 prescribed 15 milligram pills of oxycodone. So to get to be able to get more from the doctor, you have to have it in your system for them to refill your prescription, because it's more suspicious to not have your prescription filled because maybe you're selling it or doing whatever to it. But they want a little bit of your system, even though an addict can cut down to hide it for a test, and someone who's not using it could be selling it as well. So there's always a risk. And then it doesn't ring a bell to people in society that anytime they're giving you these prescription meds, they're telling you it's highly addictive and probably can kill you. And
Well, that's
the biggest goal of pain meds is to reduce inflammation. But whereas they legalized marijuana, it's still not illegalized and decriminalized everywhere else. But now you have to get a license for it, and then they charge you more than what you would get on the street for maybe the same product. And then you have to get it on record when when I can do it hand to hand, and it actually is a form of medicine that can reduce my inflammation. But that's neither here or there. That's just giving different options. But that's
well,
just how the talk of
well,
the town goes.
even with that license and prescription, still a lot of states you're not allowed to, like your job doesn't allow it. So it's still it might be you won't go to jail for it, but it's still almost impossible to do it openly and still have a career. Which that's something that I feel. I can go on and on about my feelings on that, but
But that's another thing, though. That's why I tell all the potheads out there, people that enjoy smoking their bud, I wouldn't go along with. I mean, this is advice. This is why you take it. But I wouldn't go along with getting my license, because you don't have to be licensed and give your ID, birth certificate, for them to give you oxycodone. They don't need to get authorization. They can sign it off right there. But you need all those
Well,
things to get weed.
well, the only side effect of that is if you do have a career and you do get the license and you fail, say, a
Of
urinalysis on
course.
marijuana, then you might have an
Yeah.
out to be able to say, okay, this person has a prescription, and some jobs might be forgiving
Right.
on that. Whereas some jobs, if you don't have that, you're automatically definitely getting fired. So, I mean,
But a
it's
lot of jobs now, but a lot of jobs now are testing for, like, when they do the standard drug test. They're not testing for weed anymore. They're more so testing for pills and oxycodone and fentanyl and things like that.
well, they still are out here in
But
California,
fentanyl is
though.
killing people. Well, fentanyl is killing people. It's actually being laced in, as well as being prescribed. It's also being laced in a lot of marijuana blunts and joints. So if you're getting anything off the street, be aware of who you're getting it off of because you never know. Especially in these urban cities like Florida, New York, California, you know, all these states, especially in the southeast, you can get your hands on whatever and you don't know what it is. And the spice is super huge down here. $5 can change your life.
Yeah. I remember a lot of people using the spice and bath salts and things like that, especially when I was living in Jacksonville, because you had a lot of young military people, and so
Hmm.
they wanted to be able to still kind of smoke or partake in some kind of way, and they knew that they would get tested, so they would not use weed, but they would use some kind of spice, and I would see
Hmm.
all kind of problems with that spice. Let's see. Thomas has a comment here. Says I'm having some back and neck spasms. COVID side effects. Mm. I went to see my doctor. They just gave me various painkillers, including codeine. I asked them, wouldn't physical therapy do me wonders? Yes, of course it would, but they don't want to give you that. It's kind of like I just went through something with that, and so I no longer smoke marijuana. So what you're pushed into if you don't do that is okay, then go drink alcohol and go use painkillers. And it's like, um, part of one of my reasonings for it would be that it would help reduce, and not that it actually alleviated the pain, but it at least made you forget about the pain for a little while. And now I'm pushed to use. Trying to remember what did they prescribe me? Meloxicam.
Hmm.
That's what I'm prescribed from Kaiser, by the way. And if you read all the freaking side effects on it, and that's what I noticed that they're doing. They're trying to push you away from things which are more holistic to getting you on some kind of regulated drug which has a gazillion side effects. And then what happens with those side effects? Next thing you know, years down the road, you're having kidney problems because here, and this is how they get away with it. They say, well, you're supposed to eat with it, you're supposed to drink this much water, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, and they give you like 15 gazillion things that you're supposed to do to use it in exactly perfect. You have a couple of times where, say, you don't drink water with it, or you decide, well, I'm in pain, so you take a couple of pills, then you go out with your buddies, have some drinks, and now those side effects down the road start jacking you up more and more. So
Yeah.
I
Especially with
almost
these
feel like
opioids, especially with these opioids, you can't mix alcohol. It's better to just wait till the next day, let it flush out your system. It's not worth it.
well,
Another
but
thing
that's
is,
easy to forget
yeah,
that you even took the pill
because
earlier
the
in the day.
effects wore off. Maybe the effects wore off, but it's still in your bloodstream at that moment.
Exactly. I mean,
But
because
you can
that's
still, but
no. Go
I can
ahead.
speak from experience. Even at 14, I had actually tore my groin running track, and my groin ripped a piece of my pelvis bone off. And I was on crutches for 3 months. I didn't get physical therapy, but um they gave me opioids for pain treatment. It was really just hydrocodone with acetaminophen. But even a 14-year-old, they were giving it to you in microdoses.
Wow. I mean, I remember being in the military. They literally would give you what they call a code pack, and it was all of these different things, and they would literally give you what is it like? They will tell you take 3 times a day, 2,000 milligrams of ibuprofen, basically.
Oh my God.
That's what they were giving us active duty in the military. And I'm not sure if it's changed or not, but I would not be surprised if that's what they're still doing. That's why a
Oh,
lot of vets have
oh
different issues,
wow.
which you
Oh,
don't hear
oh,
about.
crazy.
You hear about vets with their injuries, from actually in combat and things. But what you don't hear about is how many vets that might have problems with some of these prescription drugs, have kidney problems, might have overactive bladders, all of these different things like that. When I was first getting in, because the thing, a lot of young guys are trying to put on muscle and get strong, and of course, you want to have the nice, physique when you're younger.
Creatine.
Creatine was a huge thing, which everybody used to use, and I was
It's
one of
still
those who
being used
participated or
popularly
used
now, actually. It's still being used heavily now. That in the pre-workout.
and we see our buddy Shadow Band says hello.
What's going
I'm
on,
an old
Shadow?
and
Yeah.
boring man. I go to sleep when everyone be streaming. I know one of these. Well, that's the reason why once we get you set up, hopefully, I'm not sure how you guys want to do it, but you be able to stream whenever you want to. Hopefully, I can, and I'm gonna go ahead and put him on blast. I'm trying and begging and pleading to get Shadow and the crew to do their live streams here, and all complete autonomy. I am not one of. I'm not going to throw this. I would love to throw this other show under the bus, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to be on my best behavior. But
Hmm.
unlike them, if they want to bring on whoever they want to bring on and things like that, I will give them complete autonomy to do what they want on their shows. I just want to be able to have because I know Shadow and Jack and Ali and Sebs, a lot of the content which they do, I pretty much like 98 to 99% agree with what they're talking about. So I just it's just kind of like, well, and a lot of times they're talking about issues which I would like to talk about, which sometimes I don't always have the time to get into everything, or sometimes
Yeah.
it's issues I want to talk about, but I don't feel I'm enough of an authority on. Just like Shadow, and this cryptocurrency stuff, I can keep hearing it over and over and over, but it'll never like sink into my thick skull. So I need somebody
Mhm.
like Shadow to be able to come on and break some of that stuff down. Oh, jacked original formula. I can't even remember what I was taking. Another one. And be careful on some of those natural ones too. I was taking this stuff called Yohimbe. And if that stuff goes 1 month past expiration, you could be all kinds of sick. I mean, I took that stuff and I was puking like crazy. I would have headaches and all kind of stuff. And uh, with all the pharmaceuticals that we've different, like the list that he mentioned, it's kind of funny. I'm trying to remember what's the one which everybody used to take back in the day. Prozac. Prozac was super high on the list. A lot of people were taking Prozac. Um, and I feel like there has to be something which is kind of overtaken that now. But there's these prescription drugs are still, being pushed. I hate that I can't remember the documentary right off the top of my head, but um, one of the guys who, I guess I'll just call him a pusher. One of the pushers for man, I can't remember Jack today, but Purdue Pharma.
Mhm.
One of them for Purdue Pharma, how he was talking about how he would talk to different doctors and how he would get them to figure out, like, he'd figure out, okay, which doctor I want to keep talking to, which doctor is worth wasting my time. And he had them like sectioned off in like categories. And it was like, if this doctor wants a whole lot of information and he wants to go through side effects and all that, I, I, I quit paying attention to him. Then if there's another one who he's more about like trials and stuff like that, then okay, I ignore him. If I got another one who has a ton of patients, and he's just like, all right, how do I benefit from this? That's the guy I'm looking for. And so he would literally like target doctors that he knew really didn't give a damn about helping his patients that were perfectly fine with pushing the medication. And when I was married, my ex-wife at the time, her mother was an alcoholic. That doctor in there, he
Mhm.
eventually got in some legal trouble because he was one of those types of doctors who would just push any kind of medication on his patients. And it was one medication that he
Mm.
would push to alcoholics that it's supposed to make them sick so that they won't, have the urge to drink. Well,
Mhm.
he would start selling the one which was like a watered down version of it that basically it
Yeah.
didn't stop them from wanting to drink and it made them addicted to taking that pill. And so
Yeah.
that's some of the stuff that's going on like right now, the Sackler family, how they're literally fighting their whole immunity thing and not trying to pay. And they've literally in criminal court admitted to fraud and all kind of things like that, but yet they're still pumping out these drugs. And if you look into all the companies which are involved with let's say the serum that everybody is taking for the outbreak, that serum. Oh, there's Jack right there. Yes, that's. See, I need to get Jack on here one of these times too, so he can start breaking down some of those topics that I'm not bright enough to break down. But Jack, please DM me or hit me up on Discord or if Twitter, whatever. Hit me up or even in the comment section leave me your email or something. But we need to talk, Jack. Because you got a lot of stuff that I need to have on here. I know that sweet anytime. Yes, I've been trying to organize some stuff. So I appreciate you swinging through. Um, it's something like what I was talking about with this serum, these serums that are out. Um, it's kind of interesting that you go back, say maybe 3 years ago. Sweet. You go back maybe 3 years ago, and damn near every single one of these corporations have had massive lawsuits, and now we all turn around and
Mhm.
trust them. And
Right.
we already
And
know that.
Marcus, if we're being honest, most of the general public didn't even know about these companies anyway. So it's not even worth pointing out that they had lawsuits because you don't care. You never heard of them anyway. And 9 times out of
Oh
10,
well, I know definitely at least our audience, and I wouldn't even just say our audience. I would say anybody who's kind of in our circles. I tend to look at them as sharper than the average person
yes,
out there, and
our
more in
our
the know.
audience is. That's
Yes,
why I'm speaking in terms of the general public.
yeah.
Because we have an audience of curious people that like to read between the lines, not what's just on them.
Well, I feel like it first starts off with if you're able to have that ability to question the narrative and to just not say, I'm not just going to just listen to everything you tell me. I'm going to question. I'm going to be a free thinker. Then you can start to see the holes in it, or at least not have cognitive dissonance. If you
Hmm.
see the Sackler family just pay, I mean, just got fined the highest fine on record and then turn around and trust something from that same company, you have to start looking at yourself. What's going on up here with you? And it's the same thing across the board. We'll turn around and we'll watch BP have a giant oil spill and not pay out, you know, for that oil spill, and then turn right around and then let them continue to do more and more stuff or not bat an eye while our government gives more and more contracts to these people.
We
And
won't say anything, but we'll complain that we can't go to the beach.
well, it's just like I pointed out to people, years ago about a certain issue. This is a local issue, kind of off topic, but I'll bring it up anyway. I was blasting everybody and telling everybody about something that was going to come, and in Wyandotte County. Well, not even just Wyandotte County, in the whole state of Kansas. This Ghost Rider tax that was going to come, and nobody listened. A handful. I won't say nobody. A handful pushed back. Only that handful pushed back, and then what
Mm-hmm.
happened is once everybody start having that bill show up, everybody's like, "What the hell is this?" Well, I look at the same thing with, for instance, some of these serums from certain companies that we're trusting. Um, we know their wrongdoings. We've seen the court documents, this and that, and we're all just going to sign up and be comfortable in trusting all the different serums and products from all of these untrustworthy people. And then we're going to be surprised 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, when we start finding out all these different side effects. And,
And then not only that, if we're
mhm.
just talking about it as a whole, not even just from up top, let's just talk about where it's getting out of hand on the street level. You got a lot of people who are connects doing their thing who are selling fake Percocets and fake pills to people.
Yeah, I mean,
A big thing in my
I
generation, especially for
well, a lot of it's been like what you talked about earlier, that fentanyl. They're just using
mm-hmm.
that fentanyl and pushing it through everything. That's why it's one of the top meds out there used, unfortunately. And you know, it literally takes for you to have. Understand that. I'm sorry. It takes for you to have an opioid. It takes for you to have an opioid epidemic for anybody to actually notice anything these days. It has to have
Yep.
what hundreds
But
of
you know what's
thousands of
funny?
people start dying, and
You
then they
you guys
care.
had you guys had crack. We have the opioid epidemic, but it's been slow cooking. Like this didn't start in our generation. This started probably on the late
Yeah.
'90s. That's when prescription meds was like really pumping out. They were just trying to produce so people caused strikes, bans, lawsuits,
Well, yeah, because it
and
started with the whole oxycodone. It started with oxycodone
mhm.
for the most part, and methadone. It was those two, oxycodone and methadone, were the first two because you had a lot of addicts who were dealing with. Well, you had the crackheads, you had the smackheads, and you had the people who were on ecstasy and stuff like that. Like my
Well, yeah,
my city, what was it in '90? Well, it's embarrassing to say, but not only did my county lead per capita in teen pregnancy, they also led in meth per capita
oh wow,
in the country, and so we
oh
led in
wow,
teen pregnancy and meth. And the reason why the meth labs start getting so much out of control is because good old Joe Biden and laws like which they put in put all of the effort and policing into the inner cities. And
yep.
so you go around looking at black and brown people mostly and not looking into the suburbs at all. Whereas it took for the
See,
fire
that's
department.
another thing though. It's
Hmm.
not just it's not just the inner cities. It's not always the black and brown people, the poor black and brown
Oh, in
people
our
that
case,
exist.
it wasn't. Well, they started there. Then they started in the trailer parks. And they were
Because
getting some, but
that's
where you want to know where it was at? It was literally
where.
mostly in the wealthiest county next to us, Johnson County, which at that time had about 120,000. What was it? About 120,000 was the median income, and
Oh
you would
wow.
have these big, nice houses, and all of a
Hmm.
sudden, you look in the front layer, and it looks like a home. But if you ever went into the house, you go upstairs, nothing up there. 3 bedroom houses, nothing in the top. It's just a little bit of furniture sitting around where it looks like a home. And then you go into the basement, and it's just a full on lab there. And it
Hmm.
took for the fire department to say, "Hey, we keep having all these fires, these fires from all of this opium, what is it called, meth. We keep having all these meth labs, which keep going up in flames." And the fire department is who alerted the police to where to actually start looking. That's what finally shut it down. And then I
No,
remember when I was in Miami at that, when I got, I was in Florida, but not Miami at the time. But that's when you start having the huge ecstasy push. And so after all that, then you have all those people who were trying to get off of the drugs being prescribed all of this methadone, and that's when it started. The methadone leading to oxycontin and all of that stuff, which
well,
led to the
actually,
opioid, thing.
they say I want to bring up the phrase "history repeats itself" because with oxycodone, what nobody realizes is it's heroin in a
Hmm.
different form. Same thing with codeine, promethazine that they give you for cough syrup. All that is liquid heroin. That's why drinking lean is so harmful and deadly because now you're taking heroin at doses that can't be controlled.
Well,
That's why a lot
it
of people
goes
die.
it goes back to what was happening in the early, well, actually late 1800s to early 1900s, where you had a lot of people who were literally, they were just taking like basically liquid heroin and opium and just drinking it. We're starting to get back around to all
Oh,
that stuff again.
actually, have you ever heard of the show called The Nick?
No, not familiar.
So it's called The Knickerbocker. It's set in the I think in the 19th century. It's
Hmm.
about the first main general hospital in the Manhattan, and the main doctor. The big goal that the main doctor is he's very smart, but he's also a heroin addict. They've been trying to discover how to deliver complicated pregnancies because most of the time they get the baby, they end up killing the baby and the mother at the same time. So they started injecting the mothers with heroin as the first forms of anesthesia. And actually, when he gets hurt, he actually gets injected with heroin.
Wow. Yeah, everything
Mhm.
is like spiraling back around because I mean, how we talked about coke a little bit earlier. A lot of people don't realize that they used to use actually coca leaves, for cocaine in original
Mhm.
coke. And once they started, granted, it wasn't in large amounts,
Of
but
course.
once they take that out, well, and it also had wine in it, believe it or not. But once they took that out, yeah, yeah, wine and coke together. That was like America's
Wow, Jesus
favorite
Christ.
drink. And so once they took that out, they started using the what is it called, the cornstarch,
Oh, that's
high
even worse.
cornstarch, and then
And
high
high
fructose corn
fructose
syrup.
syrup.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's what, and then that also has some other additives to make it a little bit more addictive and things like that. But that's all of that stuff is all tied back. Like, do you know that there's only two people who know the Coke recipe? And those
Oh
two
wow.
people cannot be in the same place at the same time. Like literally, if one is flying on a plane, the other one can't fly on a plane. Like that's how serious that they take it. The Coke recipe. And so it's set even when that guy dies, that is going to be passed on to another person, and so it's kind of like president and vice president kind of thing. Like they treat it to that level, the recipe of Coke, and nobody knows what the hell is completely in it. And I mean, it's the same thing. Like I remember
Same with
when I was your age with the Mountain Dew stuff, the yellow dye. A lot of people said that led to what do they say, Mountain Dew, that it led to infertility. And some studies have backed that up. That
I never was a Mountain Dew kid growing up. We always used to drink Sprite, but my grandmother, my mom, my dad would be like, "All right, you had enough. You got to drink water the rest of the night."
was
Or if you
because of
just
the high
maybe
fructose corn syrup. And that's the thing. It doesn't
yeah,
matter
or
which one
maybe if
you
you had
drink. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I was saying that even if you had a little bit of juice in the morning, it would turn into all right. You need to have water for most of the day, and then maybe you can have one soda with your dinner. But that
Well,
would
yeah,
be like, oh,
because yeah, I was gonna say old Pepsi used, and a lot of those used to have just raw sugar. and they
Yeah.
replace the raw sugar for the high fructose corn syrup. And the difference, which people who don't understand the difference, is when you have the raw sugar, your body is able to break down that raw sugar better, as it's not able to break down the high fructose corn syrup the same. Oh, Mountain Dew
Hmm.
Code Red. And Mountain Dew Code Red is especially bad because Mountain Dew Code Red has the red dye, was it red dye number 3 and the yellow dye number 5. And so, yeah, it's really bad for you. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Occasionally, I might have a Mountain Dew, but it's once in a blue moon. And it's I try to limit myself more and more with all these things, but they're all really bad for you. And all of this is by design. And I know that we kind of jumped a little back and forth, but it's designed what they're doing in these foods because it leads you to their drugs. So you're going to need eventually some kind of pharmaceutical to help repair the damage that these different foods and beverages are doing to our bodies. I mean, at this point now, a lot of liquor is better for you than drinking some of these sodas.
Yeah, and back in I think it was the 17th century, they used to drink only alcohol because it was the purest form, because all the water was filthy.
Well, did you know what they used to do also with the alcohol? They when they went to the prohibition period,
Hmm.
before alcohol used to be like completely like pure, and so you could, I mean, not, I mean, it used to be to the point where it wasn't nearly as harmless. And so what they did is they like gasoline, they literally, it was interchangeable. Like my grandfather used to make like cotton gin, which I don't advise drinking any of that cotton gin.
It
People
sounds
don't.
like something that'll put some hair on your chest.
Oh, it'll do more than that. It will literally start your car, and
Red Bull will
that's,
give you like it's like a Red Bull gives you wings.
yeah. It's like putting nos in your car. So what they did eventually during Prohibition is they literally put poison into that stuff so that if you drank it, then it would kill you. That's when it started to become a difference between, then they start using gasoline eventually. But that's how they differentiated. This is only for the car. This is only for your body. Thomas says, I like the Mexican Coke. They at least use, yeah, at least they use real sugar. They also ban the American GMO corn and use real indigenous organic corn as an ingredient. That's good. I mean, I need to keep that in mind and start getting it. Atra says, I only really fuck with the Mexican Coke. I might need to start following you guys' example.
I've never actually heard of that. Actually, I
No,
live in a predominantly Latino Hispanic area,
but you
so
got to remember, you got to. I know where you live though, but you don't have nearly as many Mexicans though. You don't have as
yeah,
much.
that's where I was getting to. I'm more with Puerto Ricans,
Mm-hmm.
Cubans, Dominicans, a lot of Colombians. So I get a lot of. They actually do have a lot of the snacks we would have, but they have the international versions. Like one time, I went to get a bag of chips, and they looked the same. So when I went and looked at the bag and I ate one, I was like, this tastes kind of funny. And then I realized it was from a different country. It was the same snack, but then they use different seasonings and different things in the snacks. That's another thing I think. You
Because like
know,
one disadvantage in Puerto Rico, because I used to live there for a little while. I lived in Catalina and Humacao, and the problem with some of those areas that are so close to the U.S. and they've dealt with so much colonialism from the U.S., they are still have a lot of American products. And so even though you might be first or second generation coming over, you're still eating and drinking stuff that's very, very similar to American food. Now it's different when you start talking about Panamanians and Colombians and Cubanos, but especially with like Boricuas and Dominicans, you're gonna have a lot more Americanized style food versus like when you get
yeah,
out to the West Coast or the Southwest, or actually I'll just say the West Coast as a whole, you're gonna have a lot more products that might be an American company, but it's a little bit different. European Fanta is good. Oh yes, it is so much better. When I first had Fanta, I was living in Italy at the time,
Hmm.
and I loved the strawberry, and so it was way different. Um, like for instance, I really don't even after living overseas, I don't really eat as much ice cream as I used to because when I was over there, they don't really eat ice cream the same way we do. They eat gelato, and so
Yeah,
gelato is a lot fresher. And
it's so much better actually because
yeah,
they have it. I think it's Talenti ice cream that they
mhm.
have over here, but it's usually more expensive.
Well, yeah, the only problem with a lot of the European foods is the shelf life is not as long, and that's actually a good thing because if the shelf life is not as long, you know that you're actually getting real
Something
food.
fresh.
You're actually getting something real food.
Yeah, we're here in America. The
Viva
shelf
la
life is pretty long.
raza! That's what I'm talking about. Getting all my brothers in here. Love y'all. Much love out to you. But as you get more of the actual, and I always tell people, try your best to try to get more products outside of the U.S. Like honestly, one of my favorite drinks, especially when I was in PR, would be well, actually no, this was stateside Inca Cola, but I'm trying to remember what was it. Oh, Cola Champagne. That's
Mm,
I love some. I honestly was
yeah,
like,
I've had
I
that,
might
but
just
you know the
start
West
ordering
Indian.
it. I might just start ordering it. Well, you have like
Yeah, I've
three or
had
four different
The
ones.
West. Yeah,
The
because
West Indian one,
I'm
the
used
West
to
Indian one's
the
good too.
yeah the cola champagne, and then I've had the Dominican version. That one's alright,
Hmm.
but I mess with my
Just
West
like
Indian.
you're just well, yeah. Well, you have more your West Indian side, and technically, I love anything from the from
But
the
see,
Caribbean.
that's
So.
another thing that also plays a part in intake. Depending on your culture, or you're gonna get a more heavy diet. I think one thing that's probably universal across all cultures and races, unless
Hmm.
it's religion, excluding religion, is the eating of pork. Whether you have beliefs or not, pork actually is one of the main causes for hypertension, high blood pressure, clogged arteries. And how you unclog your arteries is by releasing red blood cells. That's why you see usually men with heart disease, heart failure, because women have menstruation cycles so they can release and flush out their red blood cells at a much faster, heavier rate, whereas men can only do it through their stool. And the only way to help clear that out, along with stooling, would be to donate blood. But because you're eating all that rough stuff, it's just clogging your arteries into years and years. You end up, your heart ends up
And that's one
failing.
thing I try to
And that's
advise
another
out
thing.
here. It's bad out here. They love that puerco. They love that damn pork. They love it out here, and I try
I'm,
to say,
and I'm
if,
not ashamed to say, I do love bacon, especially being from parents who are from the East Coast, living in New York, growing up there as a kid. Going to the deli in the bodega to go get my bacon, egg, and cheese was a ritual, or having my dad make me one, or my mom make me one, or make some of my own. It was always, oh yeah, I gotta make a bacon, egg, and cheese. So it's just something you get in the morning.
well,
You don't even realize.
I think we all used to, if you're not religious, everybody pretty much loves pork. I mean, especially bacon. I mean,
Yes,
it's
you
and
know,
and
you know,
and especially in black and brown communities, it's been kind of it's not necessarily that it's acquired taste. It's been something that's almost DNA encoded because if you go back to our earlier, our early ancestors, when dealing with Europeans, it was forced on us, and it was one of the main foods that we were only allowed to eat. So it became, in your diet, ingrained in your diet, where you don't even realize that you crave for it. And
mhm.
that doesn't matter if you're talking about Mexico, Puerto Rico, Colombia, if you're talking about um, uh, African American descendants of slaves. It doesn't matter because that was something that Europe was big on. Europe loved pork, and
Hmm.
they would eat the pork and then give all the remnants. That's the reason why, like for instance, like in
They
Puerto Rico,
used to
one of
feed
the
the slaves pig intestines.
well, that's the reason. Well, I mean, my mom still to this day still will try to cook and eat chitlins.
Oh, chitlins
Disgusting,
is like it's
disgusting.
feces.
But in Puerto Rico, we would eat blood sausage. Yeah, yeah, that's a big time thing there.
I'm not a raw meat kind of guy. It has to be well done.
Well, it would be cooked all the way through, but it's just the
Oh,
way it's made. It's yeah, I
yeah,
won't go in and gross anybody out on that.
yeah.
But and like for instance, I had to like stop eating one of my favorite Puerto Rican dish sandwich is like a tripleta, which that's three different meats, and it would be
I've had
it
the
would
tripleta. I've had that before.
yes, I mean it was one of my favorites. Jack says, yeah, you talking about the blood sausage? I it's I know it sounds gross when you're listening to it, but well, it is gross, but when you're eating it not knowing what it is, I mean, the way the season, and it goes back to like a lot of like old like plantation and slave foods where you learn to how to season it all up. Like I would look at my grandmother like she was crazy when she'd be eating like pork ears and and yeah, she ate all that gross stuff like you know
Nothing against your grandmother, just
like pig feet. Well, my grandma on my mom's side, like she literally grew up. Oh, yep, chicken liver, gizzards, all that stuff.
I've never. You know, my family actually, my mom's mother's side, they actually hail from, Alabama. So a lot of the southern stuff, like I don't eat grits. I'm the only one
Well,
from from.
I don't either. But like my mom, she'll tear up some.
They'll eat grits with sausage, grits with bacon, grits with cheese. But actually, in West Indians, we'll eat the no pork.
My girl says no pork.
It's actually like I've done it before at a West Indian party we did for the 4th of July. My grandfather's friend, we ate a whole pig.
Mm.
You know those big
Hey,
pigs.
we used to
Cuban,
fry them too.
especially in the Cuban culture, they'll get the box and they'll cook and rotisserie the whole pig. But
I
it's actually very delicious.
we've
But it's
done it. We've done it numerous times. Thomas here says I had a short-lived work experience at a hog farm when I was 19. Man, they let the pigs live on their own. Yeah, they are given steroids. They bite each other. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I have to really think about them, it's disgusting. Jack says
yeah,
he grew up on those. Hey, well then we got a lot in
we
common
all
there.
did.
We
We
got a
all
lot in
did.
common there, Jack. I mean and we don't even think about that it was the leftovers what we were
You
given.
know, but you
You
know
know,
what's the biggest thing since we've kind of jumped back into food?
hmm
Because see how important it is. The
it's
biggest
extremely
thing,
important because it leads to all of these other health problems that we later on have. Like I want
look,
to go back to Thomas's comment here. He talks about the steroids and everything. You know, like in the to I don't want to go too much into the Bible for now, but I'll say the reason why like it says in the Bible about staying away from pork. The reason why in the Quran they stay away from pork is because a pig will literally just eat anything. It will eat feces. It will eat another pig. It will eat toxins. It will eat roadkill. It will eat garbage. It will eat anything, and
you know,
it doesn't chew the cud. So what happens is uh, a pig is able to eat all of these toxic things, and it won't harm the
but
pig.
they don't
And
have
so when you kill
pituitary
the
gland.
pig, you're eating all of its toxins
Yes, because it
exactly.
doesn't have
It
it doesn't
shits
have
or it eats.
pituitary glands.
Nope, they don't
Yes,
have sweat glands at all.
nope.
Yeah, so the pig is literally one of the grossest things that you actually can eat.
It's like
I mean,
it's like eating a rat. It's like eating a rat.
well, yeah, it's kind of funny
Mm.
you say that because I can think, I literally, a scripture pops into my mind when it talks about, those who will be punished, who will be caught behind the tree eating the
Hmm.
pig and the rat. That's literally a Bible scripture. But
You know what's another thing that's really bad that we consume a lot of?
what's that?
Butter.
Yeah, butter is so high in cholesterol and
It's
sodium.
so fattening. You put butter on popcorn whenever you're cook instead of using, which is a better alternative, olive oil for to make sure there's stuff in the pan or skillet. You're
Which,
using
which,
butter.
while you're at it, think about it. We don't really have olive oil in the States. What you're more
Hmm.
than likely having where you think is olive oil is actually grapeseed oil.
Hmm.
Because olives, they for one, they won't grow here stateside. And also, by the time they make it here, export it, it would spoil. So that's the reason why you
Yeah.
don't actually have olives. I mean, yeah, you're not lying. Fats are well, some fats are good for you. You do need to have some,
Yeah,
but
you
you
do
got
need
to be able to
you do need a source
balance
of
that.
iron. You do need
Yeah.
a source of iron, but that's why you can always do chicken. A lot of some people grow their own chickens. You can eat lamb. You can try beef alternatives. Actually, they've been pointing out that plant based. They're trying to make that the new thing. But another thing they're not telling you is people like Bill Gates are buying up half the world's, half the population's farmland. And if this is where the beef's coming from, the guy who's also coming out with the syringes, the same guy who was making women sterile in India. So just beware if you're going
Well,
the
well,
plant-based route.
another thing, even if it is those beefs, you got to remember when they start getting to these actual processed farms, and like he was talking about earlier, Thomas talked about with the steroids and stuff. You
Hmm.
gotta watch all that stuff. Like I've seen some of the ones where they're milking cows, and you see like blood and all this gross stuff in it, and then
Uh,
they kind of like strain through it and give you like what's left, and then put a little bit of white dye in it, and to make you
hmm.
think like you have this nice, clean, pure milk, but it's actually full of so
And
many negative microbes in it and that are
and
toxic for
it's
you.
another thing, Marcus. In this era, a lot of women and men aren't cooking as much. So now you're not even knowing. Now you get chicken nuggets. You're not cleaning your chicken. I'm used to when my grandmother would make chicken or
Well,
chicken
you got to
wings.
remember where are these damn chicken nuggets coming from? How does there's no chicken that just turns into a nugget. How
Nugget,
did
yeah, exactly.
if it's straight actual chicken breast and then it's battered, that's one thing. But where are these chicken nuggets coming from?
Because a lot of them are frozen. Like for instance, whenever my grandmother would make chicken wings, she got a real chicken. She would have to cut out the insides, scrape off all the excess stuff, put lime and lemon and vinegar, and clean it thoroughly until she even started seasoning and cooking it.
That part
So,
there.
so are tenders.
Yeah, so are tenders also there in that same. Like I used to like when me and my girl first got together. I used to tell her like, no, I like bone-in wings, and she's like, no, no, I like boneless chicken wings, and I'm like,
Like,
no,
boneless.
not really. And I was like, really, all that is just a big chicken nugget. That's not an actual chicken wing. That's a chicken.
Yeah, but a lot of it sometimes it feels like you're chewing on plastic with those. Not even just chicken nuggets. Sometimes if you get them from Wendy's or McDonald's and they're not cooked right, it tastes like you're eating like chewy plastic.
I wish yeah, I agree. Teachers need to show their class this video. Scare the students into healthy eating, and we need to. And honestly, what I try to yes, the pink slime. What I try to tell people, what we should try to do is it doesn't hurt you to go to whichever one of the and I would actually advise to go to a nursery instead of not saying that you can't go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's. I know that I used to work for both of them, and when I worked at Lowe's we had very good nurseries, but I would advise going in there and look to see like when I was in Florida it was Bonnie Farms was like the main one. You can literally just go to one of the nurseries and just look for Bonnie Farms products and then buy
Well,
your own and try to grow your own vegetables and things like that. And if you need
Marcus
tips,
is
I can give you
actually
tips on how to help grow that stuff. But We need to get more back to our own natural gardens and growing our own
Another thing that's also hurting us
food.
is a lot of these foods are mucus forming. So, for instance, let's just look at dairy products that are pus forming: butter, cow buttermilk, cheese, all kinds, cream, milk, yogurt, for cereals, barley, bread, cereal grains, oats, cornmeal, pastas, um, processed foods, dried convenience foods, canned like the canned Chef Boyardee's, fast foods, the frozen food, the packaged frozen chicken nugget bites that you get, you heat up, your processed meat, baked goods like any kinds of pies, cake, pastries, candy, caramels, chocolate fudge, jelly candies, rock candy, taffy, gelatin, ice cream, marshmallow. They're all mucus forming. And then especially things like ale, beer, brandy, champagne, hard cider, things like rum, sake, gin, a bunch of the like older liquors that the elders used to drink, and even the
Hmm.
times of the samurai in Japan, they used to drink a lot of sake. So a lot of those older alcohols are very high in mucus. Syrups, brown rice, chocolate, corn, the artificial flavored coca, coffee, kombucha, soft drinks, tea, all kinds. They're all heavily forming pus foods. Blood of animals is pus forming. Eggs, lard. You just talked about lard. Here's the
Yeah.
beef, chicken, horse, dog, mutton, lamb, turkey, veal, pork, bacon, ham, sausage, chitlins, just to name a few, are all high in mucus forming.
And that's what our
A
whole
lot of people
diet
don't know
really
that
consisted of.
for 365 years times however many years you've been on this earth.
Oh,
And it's
sorry, you
so
broke.
bad that you can't even trust oh, my bad. I said it's so bad that you can't even trust lettuce from certain places. Like, say, I like Chick Fil A, but the biggest thing is always like Chick Fil A is natural. Being in Florida, you eat Chick Fil A a lot, so it's like,
Hmm.
let me give you a story. So, this was during COVID, like about a year ago. I had to go up to New York, so I went out with some friends that I used to go to school with. So we're linking up, and we're in the city, and everybody's like, "Oh, okay, what are we gonna eat?" I'm trying to go to a wing spot, and I felt like such a Floridian, and they wanted to go to Chick Fil A so bad, and I was just saying I go to Chick Fil A all the time, but
Hmm.
even at Chick Fil A you can get a lettuce wrap, but depending on certain places, it's kind of scary to get lettuce. Look how many times Chipotle has had a recall on their romaine lettuce or just a recall on everything, and yet you go back to eating it as normal. It's seen as one of the healthier options. But from my experience with Chipotle, it just makes you have to go to the bathroom really bad. It
Well,
feels
here's
like
I was going to throw in something that a lot of people don't know. Most natural seeds, most if they were non-GMO, our natural fruits, if they're non-GMO, they have seeds in them. So when you get seedless grapes, that's not normal. Even bananas, believe it or not, bananas literally used to have seeds in them. There used to literally be hundreds of types of bananas.
is
But when
it
you had the
mean or
banana wars, you had the banana wars. What started happening is you had companies like Chiquita that they would literally try to find what they deem was the prettiest ones and then try to grow and grow more and more like this. And then they would literally get rid of the ones with the seeds. That's the reason why, like, you'll still have, in a lot of the Caribbean areas, plantains is still a big thing. Plantains is just another form of bananas, so I just want to throw that in there.
just like cucumbers and pickles.
Hmm.
But another thing, what is it? You made the point. I noticed that whenever you're getting them from more mom and pop shops or markets, you tend to get better fruit. And even with watermelon, my family were big watermelon fans. My grandfather's from the West Indies, is from Panama. My grandmother's from Jamaica. So I remember they used to get the whole watermelon, cut it up. We would all just eat pieces. We'd have it warm. It was always sweet. As soon as we could taste the sweetness, the first thing we'd do is, all right, let's put it in the fridge. my grandfather used to call us Yankees and Americans because
Hmm.
we would like it a little cold, but the fruit is probably meant to be enjoyed warm, but even then you can taste with the seeds, you're spitting out seeds, you taste the juice, it feels more full than
Hmm.
taking it in its packaged at a grocery store. And another thing, it's hard to find, a lot of times we'll think that fruits aren't in season and the weather has an impact. But a lot of the times these fruits are so badly sprayed with pesticides and everything else they inject in it, but by the time they get to the store, they're all dead.
Well, and not only is it affecting just the fruits. Um, for instance, what's going on in Puerto Rico still to this day right now is a big battle with Monsanto and Bayer, and you
Yep,
have
that's a big one.
a lot of people who are a little bit younger than me and my age who are dying from cancer, who they shouldn't be,
Mm.
and it's all because of these different pesticides which they're putting on all the foods, which they're lying about and trying to hide. But this goes back into a mix now of the drugs and dealing with, the foods, how we have to be careful of all these things. I mean, the reason why these things had seeds in them, like watermelons, is so you can spit those seeds out and then it can start growing more watermelons. One thing which I love, which a lot of my Mexican brothers and sisters out here do. And I'm not saying that they're the only ones to do it, but I've seen that they're the ones who, oh, I've seen this from the most. They literally take the watermelon and just get all the juice, squeeze the juice out of it, and literally just make like watermelon juice or piña juice or whatever different other fruit they can find, and they're
You know,
real
one
big
thing that's
on
like
the
super
actual
popular
juice from the fruit.
in the southeast that's really, oh, it's
Oh no,
chopping
go
up.
ahead.
You froze out a little bit.
Yeah, go on ahead.
Can
You're
you hear
you're
me?
free. Fella. Yeah, I can
Oh,
hear you.
okay. Yeah, I was saying one thing that's popular, like in the, geographically, Florida is the deep south, but if you're looking at areas like Alabama, New Orleans, Atlanta, one big thing that they do in these, especially in these African American communities, is they put sugar on watermelons. I think that's the dumbest thing
Yep.
ever. It's naturally sweet. What you gonna put more sugar that's gonna kill you when it's
There we
already
go.
sweet?
Agua fresca. Yep.
Agua.
I
Yep.
mean, we
Another
used to
thing
put
is
salt on them. Believe it or not.
you used to put salt on watermelons.
Yeah, growing up, we used to put salt on them. Believe it or not.
Oh, that's the same
that's
thing with
that's something you
popcorn too.
learn in the
They put
Midwest.
you douse your popcorn with butter. The movie theater butter. I can't lie. Whenever I don't, the movies aren't as cool as they used to be, and they aren't making as many good movies that you can just watch from your home at this point in time. So when you do get to go to the movies, it is nice to get that your little small icy and get your popcorn with butter. But no one is saying that you can't enjoy these little devils. Only thing the point we're trying to convey is that just do everything in moderation. As you see, we're not hiding the fact that we have our guilty pleasures when it comes to foods or different things. But as long as you're eating these things in moderation, it doesn't create a problem. But in America, we have sort of a, I think with my generation heavily is that we have a, especially with social media. Actually, well, before I go off on a tangent, this is bringing us to our next topic, just on the involvement of social media and pop
So
culture in our everyday life. We have
pop
a
culture,
phone.
yeah.
We have a phone with us every single time, and yet we won't even look up. We'll post a meal on Snapchat like this, but yet we won't even bat an eye to look up what the hell we are eating.
Or my thing, like you were saying, before we segue into that topic, yeah,
Hmm.
we're not saying that just throw away everything. I mean, we've been already wired and conditioned to eat some of these foods that are negative for us. We just got to always keep that in mind, and where we can, start trying to supplement some good in to contradict, or counteract the negative that we're putting in our body. For instance, if you can deal with having, 60 or 70 or 80% cacao instead of having milk chocolate, that's a way you can actually help you because that's actually healthy for you. There are different
And you know what
coffees
else,
you can
Marcus?
get
You
that
know what
are
I'd like
more
to add?
healthy. Yeah,
We've been eating the junk as a society for so long that our tongues have forgotten the natural taste of things. So you notice they don't we as a society don't like the natural tasting things, but they'll never give it to us when they give us low fat or low sugar. That's another thing I noticed in schools. Sorry to jump to another thing, but how you mentioned the strawberry milks, the chocolate milks, the milk started getting lower fat, low. Each milk's changed because I remember it used to be TG. I can't remember the name, but we used to have a certain milk brand, and then it went from Borden milk, and we've had that since about the time I was. Let me see if I can look it up.
see, we only had you had whole milk or you had 1%. That's what you got when I was in school. You either got that whole white milk or the
We
one
actually had a
percent,
lot
or
of
you got
choices. We
chocolate or
had.
strawberry.
Oh, yep. See, yep. I remember this is from what we had in elementary school. It used to be TGE. I mean TG Lee. You ever heard of that milk company?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Well, you gotta remember, I lived in Florida too. Yeah, I've
Yes.
definitely heard
So
of
it used to be.
TG.
Yeah. So it used to be, and this was actually TG Lee. And even when I went to school in New York and when I went back to Florida, it was became Borden. But TG Lee used to just be regular chocolate milk. You used to get full very fast, and it used to feel like chocolate milk. And then they started giving low fat. It would just taste all weird. Sometimes milk is a
Yeah,
byproduct of the beef
of,
industry.
of, of
Yep,
beef
because they're
industry.
coming
Yeah.
from the same animal.
Oh,
Yep,
mhm.
yep, they're coming from the same animal. But a lot of
Well,
the beef,
another
they're contaminating these cows or whatever they do.
Well, here's another thing. In general, we're as human beings, we're really not supposed to be drinking as much milk as we do any damn way. Oh, I missed this one here from Thomas. It
Yeah.
says most root beer sodas don't even have a root beer plant in it anymore. Yeah, that is a
Oh wait,
damn shame.
wait, Thomas, can I add on to you, man? I tell this
No.
to all. I'm actually I'd say a victim. Ginger ale. People sit and think that fixes your stomach. You're just drinking sugar and carbonation when there's
Yeah.
no ginger root in it. You know, I actually had my uncle tell me that ginger ale is healthy for you. We got into an argument in a family group chat. For him to bring up some weird website that says the contents of ginger ale help you, and you know it's huge in the African American community to have a ginger ale. Like I can tell you from experience, my own mom, she'll drink the 12 pack throughout the week and eat stomach ginger ale. But do they not realize all it's doing is giving you gas, whether it's burping or, a fart, but it's not helping you. You're just drinking
Yeah.
carbonated sugar.
Just carbonation for the most part.
Yeah,
Oh,
and the
let's
sugar and
hurry.
stuff that hurts your stomach.
Let's make sure we hop into this next topic so we won't go too long. Let's
Yeah,
get into that social media because or pop culture because one thing I've noticed that's different. And oh, well, true. And you know what? We might pick this topic back up again and go deeper because there's so much more we can go into talking about these different foods and things. Thomas says, right, Jalen, they have fake ingredients fooling our mom and pops. And that's the problem. We
literally.
gotta
But
make
they've been
sure that
doing it
we're
so
not falling
long,
into
it's
those traps.
ingrained.
We got to make sure we're not falling into those traps.
Oh,
Exactly.
Marcus,
Chewing on ginger
I
root,
was
that is something
wrong.
that used to be an important thing to do. It's good for you to chew on ginger root.
Oh, Marcus,
Yep.
I was wrong. I actually went back and looked up the school milk for chocolate, the school chocolate milk back in Florida in around 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So the company that was actually giving us the chocolate milk for around, see, that's how I'm starting to feel a little older because now we're looking back at '09. That feels so long ago.
You think oh nine's a long time ago.
I could tell you the exact name. It's funny because these kids will never know a time before being young and on social media was a thing.
But you don't know
So
what time. When I would think
the
about it, talking about pop culture, when I was your age, most people didn't have cell phones. Period.
Exactly. Look, if
Let
the
alone a
chocolate,
smartphone. There were
I don't know if
no
you guys can see.
phones.
Yep, I don't know if you guys can see, but the chocolate milk is actually called Velda. And it used to be there wasn't a low fat, and then it became 1%, and then there was skim milk, and there was whole. You could also get whole milk. They started opening up the milks for us. But segueing into pop culture, another thing we just talked about was we can just start off with the gaps in generations. You people didn't even have phones when you were my age.
Yeah, I mean,
You probably
even
got a beeper
when
at
I was,
around 20,
if you were cool,
21.
you had a pager. I mean,
Get a
now only
beeper
like
or a pager.
if you had a phone, you were rich. Only like rich
Yeah,
people had phones. Like doctors and lawyers had phones, or like if you were like a high level drug dealer, you had a phone. But like a phone
that's
back then was like, I mean, you're talking about like $1,000 for like a flip phone back then. I mean,
you
it was
know
ridiculous.
shoot phones cost as much as a used car. I could spend $1,500 on a new iPhone with all the updated storage with 512 gigabytes, a terabyte, the same core processing, RAM, storage capabilities from the last phone for $1,500. When I could use that to get a car, my I could
Yeah,
that could be my first
we're
car.
talking about like phones when I was in high school. The calculators now have more power than our cell phones did. I mean, like you
The
literally the
market,
batteries didn't last long and they die
I know,
fast. Like pagers was the thing. You know, everybody had to
I
have
know,
recorders for the
I know
payphone.
for you, I know for you being much older, being in, so what are you, 981, 1981?
Yeah, 81.
Okay, so you've seen technology just jump. Let's even look at it in music. You guys went from Walkmans to CDs to aux to Bluetooth. So you've been seeing the advancement in technology much
Well,
longer than I have.
you skip laser discs. We had
Oh, Laserdisc as
this in there
well.
too.
Oh, I forgot VHS. How could I forget VHS?
Yes, don't forget VHS.
Then, then there's the record players. But I can say even for
Well,
my era, it kind of felt
and
like
even cable. Like you have streaming now. I remember like
mhm,
if you had HBO, HBO was one channel. Cinemax was
yep.
one channel. And that was like I mean cable if you had like full package of cable, it was like maybe 20 channels.
See,
That was it.
kids these days will never know what the stress is like to record your shows in a family who uses the cable, even if it's in different rooms. So, for instance, growing up, I'd have to record my shows. So, if my brother was in the living room and I didn't have the cable box in my room, I would have to go record it or make sure I pre-recorded the show just so I could watch it. They'll never know about having to record a show or catching it and being
I
only
used
able
to
to rewind it.
record I used to record music videos.
Yep,
Like,
I
and
used to do that.
you had to be
And
like, and they would tell you, and they're like, and make sure you come back because Dr. Dre will be back, or whoever it was at the time. Like, literally, like I remember J Lo on the Six when it came out. Like, I remember recording that. Like, you'd be sitting up there like waiting with your hand
mhm.
above the record button because you had to like hit the record and play button at the same time. And then like you'd have to wait,
Yep,
and then you start hearing the music like before it fades, and try to click it at the same. And the same thing on the radio. Like we
yep.
used to
See,
record the
you guys,
radio.
yep, to record the tapes. See, but that's just a leap from your generation to mine, as ours was on the DVR on the cable. So I remember recording my shows. Or I used to record basketball games, or if I was see, you know how you can just binge watch something. The old version of catching up on a show was wait till they get the reruns and record it all on the DVR, so then that way you can watch it all in order.
Well, that's the reason why like TV
But
Guide is
they'll
like
never
no
know
longer
about that.
TV Guide is like no longer a thing
That's
anymore because like you
anymore,
literally had to like have a TV Guide and you'd be like, oh shit!
right?
So now I'm gonna
Remember,
be able to
Marcus,
catch
I'm
that
sure.
episode of the Twilight
Mhm.
Zone or MASH or whatever it was or Roseanne or
Yep.
whatever show was on.
See,
You had to have the TV Guide to know, okay, Wednesday is gonna have this episode and you know the title name, and so that's the reason why back then I was like there has to be some way you can fast forward this, because if they already know what they're going to be showing next Wednesday, and it's Tuesday now, I mean it's Tuesday the week before, there has to be a way to fast forward it. And literally, I shit you not, people are like, "You're out of your mind. You're crazy. That's impossible. Nobody can do that." And now it's reality. So going
Oh, I
ahead.
froze out, but I was actually saying that you and I both, even though you're older than me, you're around the same age as my father. We're still in the same age range to be able to remember having to remember channels on your remote. Where okay, I know that ESPN plays the highlights of the games, so if I want to watch the games, I gotta hit 312. I gotta remember the questions. And when you had cable, a lot of the times cheaper deals and different things would come out, so you would constantly switch cables unless you had a great package. So you would always have to recognize and learn the new channels on different cable boxes. And
But
another
see,
thing is
that's a
HD too.
different.
If you want to get in,
But see, that's different.
yep, even if
See,
you wanted to get the
when I
HD,
was when I was growing up, you only had like whatever the cable was that was in your network. So like where I grew
yep,
up, Time Warner was it. If you didn't
yep,
want
it,
Time
it would
Warner,
only
then
be certain
you
areas
didn't
like
have
New York.
cable.
Yep, New York used to be like that as well because my grand. Yep, we're off the cassette off the radio. Yep, always miss the intro to the song. Well,
hmm
shoot. What's funny though? Even the advancement in music, to go back to that, for you guys it was cassettes, like you just talked about going from Walkman to cassettes, VHSs to CD players to auxiliary cords to Bluetooth now. But you remember MP3 players, LimeWire. My brother used to leak all the little.
Oh yeah, I used
I
to be
used to
on that
have little
Napster.
Kanye, Napster. Yep, that's late '90s. But I remember like I was the LimeWire baby because we were babies then. I remember having the iPods, and my brother used to leak music, or my dad would leak music on there. Or you would go on these different hip hop. That's when you used to have to go back on the hip hop websites, and they would release songs back there. People used to do mixtapes. Like I don't know if people know are familiar with the Dat Piff app, but that actually has a lot of mixtapes from your favorite artists. Whereas Apple Music only does the more commercial album route. But even if that, I would say it would bring more listeners if you brought up, because a lot of the times what makes the artist stand out is their deep cuts. You don't even put their deep cuts on the main public streams. You have to have them go dig it. But I just remember, Marcus, you remember CD books for video games or CDs in the cars?
Yeah,
You
I
would
mean,
get your book,
I used to have tons of them. Oh yeah. Here, I'm gonna give you one that you
but
might
see,
not. Your
now
pop, your
we can
pops
just,
might have to tell you about that. Your pops might have to tell you about this.
okay, I'm
I
listening.
remember my TV, which I had in my room. You had the knobs because you didn't have a controller, and you had to like turn like tick 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 tick
Mm-hmm.
tick tick all the way around the two, and then you could tick 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 to the other station. So you had like about, what was it, like 7 stations. And so you had your like local CBS, ABC, was it
Was this
ABC,
was on the TV or
CBS?
the radio?
No, this was the TV.
Wait, this was on the
So
TV or the radio? Oh
no,
wow.
this was the TV. You had to like turn the TV to two. Like you have those three channels there, and then
So
you would have
you
like
must have had a
public
TV from
public
the
channel.
'70s.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I had
So
TV from the
you must
'70s.
have had the TVs from the '70s. Yeah,
hmm
that sounds like the '70s TVs.
Like we
So
had the TVs
so
where it would
audience,
go out and you
this
have to
just even
smack the side
shows.
of it to make it come back in.
Yep. No, I remember what man. I remember. By 2010, 11, 12, a lot of people already had the flat screen,
PSP,
the P2P
PSP called Morpheus.
Morpheus. Yeah, I remember that. I remember. What's funny? What I remember my older bro with his old record turntable and making mixtapes. I was 7, the mid '90s. Those were those days. Now everything could be done on a laptop. Well, what's funny, Thomas? Actually, I wasn't with mixtapes. I mean, not uh turntables. But my brother, he in when he was in high school and I was in elementary school, he had my mom's 1999 Honda Accord. So we didn't have this was around 2011, 2012. So we didn't have aux cords yet. So my brother would still make CDs. He'd make the CDs and playlists for the girls, stuff for his friends. He'd make hype tapes for his football season. So I remember my brother burning CDs. I remember my dad making CDs. I remember even '06 when there was still a record store. But it's
Yeah,
funny how stuff
I
from
used
when
to
I
go to
was a
Sam
younger
Goody's.
kid is still gone. I'd say I started noticing the change really around, even as a younger kid, the changes around from like '07 to '09.
Well, yeah, I feel like you said, '07 to '09. It really went from like '07, '09, and then each like maybe 2 or 3 years, everything is like something new, something new, something new, something new, and it's gotten to the point now where technology advances like every 6 months,
Hmm. That's
whereas
why I feel like 2005 was probably the last year we had of no technology. Like, think about it. I mean, even though so little I remember, because I didn't start getting on YouTube or see people on YouTube around 2008, 2009, because I used to listen to a lot of Kanye on my laptop or the desktops I would have at my family's house. But even just remember the speakers, man. Remember the speakers you had to turn, it would make the clicking noise, and sometimes the wires you'd have to like take the wires out, blow in the back. Same thing with like even game systems. You remember the
yeah,
PS2?
with the
You couldn't leave.
Nintendo, yeah, with the
Remember you
Nintendo,
couldn't the
you had to
PS2. You couldn't leave it
blow it.
because yep, yep. Actually, this guy Sci High, he's a rapper. He said, what did he say? He said, "I blow a bag of endo like a bad Nintendo."
Hmm.
But
Like
that
I,
reminds
I
me of the
would
PS2. I remember you
I
couldn't
was gonna.
turn your
Oh,
PlayStation off unless you had the memory card. Because if you didn't have it, your game wouldn't save.
you lose
I think
you lose everything.
technology
Yep.
advanced so quickly.
Like
Man, now you can
like
just
it's
turn
kind
off
of
your
funny.
PlayStation randomly.
Like it's kind of funny now.
Yeah, like
Like now you guys have what Twitter and Facebook and like even Facebook's kind of phasing out, but like Twitter and I don't know what the new next thing is going to be, Twitch or something
yeah,
else. I don't
whatever
know. You guys are
PlayStation
well.
is.
I
Yeah,
guess Instagram and TikTok. Those are the new things now. But like
I
you know
hate
what I was on?
TikTok.
You know what I was on when I was your
You
age,
was on.
18?
You were in the email chat rooms. The email chat rooms.
Yes, we used to get on Yahoo Chats. That's what it started with. Yahoo
Yeah,
Chats.
Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
AOL, Hotmail, and
Because
then
you know what's funny?
and well,
We used to
next,
do that too. It used to be the DS. Yep.
but
We didn't
next,
have email,
what we
but
went.
for my generation, I'm listening.
Oh, we had email, but the next thing it was what was it? MySpace. I was on MySpace, Black
I
Planet,
remember. I
and
remember my brother
Mahente.
on MySpace.
Yeah, I was on Black Planet,
You see,
MySpace, and
but
Mahente.
that's the difference. Mhm. But see, Marcus, that's a little bit of difference in between like Yeah, Facebook owns Instagram now, Wesley.
Hmm.
Yeah, because it says Instagram brought to you by Facebook. But back to
Hmm.
what I was saying that oh man, I think I lost my point. But actually, so now we kind of painted a broad picture on how technology. Oh, ICQ. I think I may be too young for
Yeah,
ICQ.
you're too young for that. You don't know
But
about that. I was a little
but
kid
you know
running
what
around
we
when they
used
were
to
on that.
use? Uh, I
Yeah.
missed Thomas. You know what's
Well,
funny?
the
You
trolls and
guys
the
they
perverts.
recycled a lot of the things that you guys had. They recycled a lot of what you guys had because I don't know if you remember Kick or people call it Kick Kike. It was the instant messenger, and that used to be the thing of my generation. Like especially middle school years, everybody was on Kick. It stopped once we got to high school, but I remember you could be able to change your username. So if you had a girlfriend at the time, you would change your name to the date you guys got together, use a bunch of heart emojis. It's funny because I come from a sensitive generation. People used to put sad faces and knives and bombs if they were mad. and change their profile picture to black. But you used to get a lot of chain messages like share if your auntie will die, and it's crazy how we just progressed off of it. But now I kind of, I used to look at social media as just it is what it is. But now I see it's a huge problem. So now I like to also jump on another topic
Oh,
with
I was gonna
influence
throw
pop
one
culture.
more.
I
I
think.
was gonna throw one more out there that we used to use, the party lines.
Oh, okay.
Everybody would get on these different party
Mm,
lines, and then you just read, "Hey, what part of town you on?" and this and that, and everybody's talking to each other back and forth and trying to, never mind.
oh,
Going ahead.
we have an app like that called like we have an app like that. It's like I can't remember the exact name. I think it's like Jungle House, and basically you just jump, you get on FaceTime with somebody just random. You don't know where they are. But the only thing is, there's a lot of like porn selling bots on there, just trying to sell their OnlyFans stuff on there. So you can't be. There's a lot of weirdos. There's a lot
Well,
of weirdos. But I'd say,
that's what happened in the messenger chats, because it was mostly just
a lot of
teenagers and young
weirdos.
adults, and then it would be this 30, 40 year old person pretending like they were like 17 to, hey, would you like to meet up? What school do
Mm-hmm.
you go to, little girl? And yeah, so you start having the pedos start infiltrating that stuff too. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the same stuff keeps coming back around. Yep, chat roulette. And you know what I think?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, even though this is the first episode, I'm thinking we're going to have to make this pop culture. This is going to have to be a reoccurring,
Theme.
segment that we're going to have.
That's
Every
that's
week
why
we're going to have to talk different pop culture, and I want all of you out there to help us bring up some
the
of this
whole
stuff
chat.
so
I
we can
want the
get some.
chat to just
Yes.
pop in because okay. So another thing I really wanted to jump into is the influence. How I don't know if our audience or you've seen. Have you ever seen the Social Dilemma, Marcus?
I've heard of it. Is that a movie?
Okay, it's a documentary.
Okay.
And so it's about these tech programmers from Google and these different software engineers. They basically break down on how, all these things are meant for, all these creations are meant for, good intentions, they're pure convenience, but all they turn out to do is become trackers and data munchers. They've successfully found a way to put a tracking device in our hands wherever we go regardless, no matter, especially now in the new updates, the new iPhone, every time you download an app, it needs to track you for something. I could get a game that's making pizzas, yet they need to know my location.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one, hold on one second, guys.
Okay, yeah, I'll go on with that. Yeah, that's one thing that's definitely changed. Before you kind of had a little bit of actual like feeling a sense of actually being off the grid to an extent. I mean, even though you weren't actually off the grid, but you kind of were, especially compared to now. You didn't have cameras everywhere that could see exactly what you were doing whenever you're doing. You didn't have like you
Okay,
didn't
I'm
have
back.
oh, go ahead.
Okay, so another thing I really wanted to say is my era wasn't raised. I'd say like my era of kids. So I have an older brother who's born in '94. So I would say '94 up until maybe 2004. I'd say like '03. They're even older than we are, so they get reminiscences straight from the '90s. But I'd say we're the era of kids who made social media cool. I'd say social media kind of reached its peak in 2016, 2015. I think that was like the height of the dumb stuff on the internet. We brought the dumbness to the internet. I can say that. There used to be challenges like put him in a coffin where this guy used to go around like a deceased man and jump on the back of cars, crack cars, used to crash stuff in Walmart. I think my era really started the dumb home video thing that is kind of played out now. It's funny, you guys will see a bunch of renditions of stuff that went on when you were kids or created then that they just reuse and recycle for my generation. I'm seeing it now. Like TikTok is just Vine. But Vine was funnier back in the day because it was something fresh. Now I'm seeing these same videos, and it's yep, exactly. You can't. I seem to notice you can't have a good day without your phone. The first thing you do is wake up, you check your phone. I'm a victim to it. If I wake up, go brush my teeth, or use the bathroom, I'm probably going to sit on Twitter. Whether it's for me reading or just watching basketball, the first thing I do is pick up my phone.
Well, that's what they
And
that's
another thing is
you got to remember they spend billions of dollars to make you
to make
want to
sure
do
this
that.
happens.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not by
Another thing
accident.
before we get into pop culture, as much as we're talking about these phones, another thing they don't tell you is this the rays from the screen and the Bluetooth and all these waves from the phone that you're putting so close to your ear like this. I use this as a prop to show you that that's giving you cancer. That's why my grandma used to. Once upon a time, we went all day long without a thing walkie-talkie in our pocket.
Yep.
These
Yep.
phones are
Yep.
completely annoying.
Yeah,
They ruin
we'll
any
do
type
one.
of.
We can't give them too much, Jay. We can't give them too much. We're
Okay,
gonna
so
have to
I start
save.
off.
We'll save some of this for next week.
Okay, so I have 2 points I want to
Hmm.
reach. So one is going to be more towards influences from pop culture and social media, and one's just going to be how phones are killing human interaction. So another thing is we all have relationships, whether it's platonic, romantic, friendships, brotherhood. Everybody got time for relationships. So what's one common outlier that is this can get you into trouble in relationships. My men, my ladies out there. Your phone can either be blessing or is a blessing and a curse. As much as it's convenient, you can get caught up you know? And more people are tempted to go through it when your personal secrets are on there. And another thing, sometimes I get on my girlfriend whenever we're hanging out sometimes, is we'll be talking in the middle of a conversation, yet she's texting on her phone. Whether or not she's listening to me is not the point. It's just kind of rude when someone's talking and I'm just sitting there like this. Yeah, when I was taught on a conversation, you give the person respect. You give the person respect. You look them in the eyes. You look attentive. Even you don't. That's just something you don't do. And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it." But that even happens just not even just with her, with other people. When you're in person and you're sitting there, one thing I hate is if I'm when I'm with someone and I'm in the car and they see something funny on social media and I'm the one driving, they'll send it to me. I was like, you couldn't have showed me at a red light. I hate that. If you're next to me or at the same table, you're sending me something. You're killing the interaction. I say, like, we have the emo generation. A lot of these kids isolate themselves because of something you can do on the internet. But you get out in the real world and you hate everyone. You just have this expectation. And I think social media and being encaved in with a phone in your hand is also creating more anxiety. Now you're more scared of the world because you're only getting a controlled dosage of what you see. So that brings in your own feelings. I think my generation heavily, especially with the phones, is it created some type of, well, I'm in my own bubble. I don't care. You do what you want. F off. And that just totally takes away any sense of accountability or just keeping it real. What happened? The big phrase of your generation is keeping it real. What happened to keeping it real? Now you can't be honest with anyone because they're told they can always be right. Or not always be right. Now everything is justified. Yep, people expect immediate responses and access. I don't want it. Yep, exactly. Same thing with girlfriends. I'd say dating now is much harder than it used to be because now someone always has access. Oh, why aren't you answering your phone? Oh, you're sharing a location you didn't like you leave yet. I'm a big habit of leaving the house telling you I'm 5 minutes, but I'm 10, but I'm gonna get there in like 7 because I drive a little faster. But I don't want to give my location because then it's gonna be like I was watching you. That's another thing you have to worry about being tracked, and especially for my era in high school. If you messed with a girl and if you guys kept it quiet, nobody would know. Now you got to tell everybody, and they know. But enough with the phones and interactions. to make my last point in how it affects, pop culture, a biggest thing, just to give you guys the simplest thing that everyone knows, I'm sure the audience is familiar, cancel culture. Marcus, I'd love to hear what you think, just some quick thoughts on cancel culture, because you're shaking your head like
Yeah.
someone
No, you're making solid points. I mean, everything you're saying is on point, is on fire, and it goes to the changes which I feel like I noticed. Before I comment on cancel culture, what you said about how everybody stays in their phone and they become more of the emo generation and more isolated, and that's what I feel like the phones are doing. You go online and you go on your phone and you go find your particular corner where you feel comfortable. But a lot of times,
Mhm.
what happens with these kids is they have no interaction with anybody outside of that small, unique bubble. Whereas I can hop off here, click this off, have a conversation with about anybody on the street about anything damn near. I have people which I can talk to about this. I have, you know, and part of me, it's because of everybody is on these things. It kind of forces you, if you want to deal with people, now you got to go through these means. But I remember a time when it wasn't like this, and we had a life
Which
outside of
another
this.
thing, Marcus, I think these phones and social media makes people stuck up. More people are more stuck up now. It's like, oh,
Well, it also, when you said that accountability thing, that's a key thing. If you can talk trash to somebody way across away, and I know Wesley can definitely attest to this. We grew up in a time where you said something to somebody. A lot of times you're going to
there
have
was
to run into that
repercussions.
person. You
Yeah,
got
there
to
was
meet that
repercussions.
person. And so if you couldn't back up what you were saying, you a lot of times got dealt with, and
Yeah, I
that's
was.
something that was different. I mean, where
Hmm.
I grew up, you had to be able to use your hands, or else you had to be, just tough enough to take that ass whooping and keep coming back. Because some guys couldn't fight, but they could take
Yep.
an ass whooping, and they were
They're
just
just for
tough
the
enough.
respect
And they're
because
like, I don't give a fuck. I'm still
I
gonna
fought
talk my
back.
shit. They were like, I'm still gonna talk my shit. And
I live in the era of internet gangsters. So you'll throw. This is the era of throwing rocks and hiding your hand. Another reason why I have frustrations with my generation, especially. I just bring it up. As a young male, you talk to a lot of females. At this age, and my biggest complaint, as far as my interaction with women or with females my age, are the passive aggressiveness.
well,
Is they're
that's
very
yeah.
passive aggressive. They'll
Well,
have the look.
because you don't have to actually, you could, well, another thing is the way these phones are, you can present yourself however the hell you want to. Most of these women have filters and all this crap like this any damn way. So you don't really know
Mhm.
what the hell you're actually looking at. I remember when I was out, when I used to date and I was single, and you would run into these women, and
Mhm.
what they used to do back then is like they would take a picture and it'd be kind of maybe a little far away, or the picture is like only like shoulder up, or they would just hide their body.
Yeah.
Now they just like
Mhm.
lie about their body on the pictures, and then when you run into them, then you might
You know.
see that the
Yep. That's a
reality
big thing.
doesn't match.
Yeah, like a lot of these women that are. One thing I've noticed. Sorry to my women out there. I don't mean to generalize you, but a lot of women on social media. Wesley, I'm going to read your comment in 1 second. But a lot of women on
I'll
social
bring it up.
media. Okay, yeah, a lot of women on social media, if you notice, follow other women. So you're watching and always judging. Like another thing, if anyone who has a girlfriend or a sibling or if they're into their phone, a lot of times you have a conversation with a woman, they see another woman on social media. Oh, why did she do that? Oh, she's a hoe for showing this. But they're so, and then when they meet up in person, they don't like each other because they're so judgmental. But I'm like, you guys
Well, I'll
have
tell
to
you,
kind of.
this is that's not a social media thing. I'll tell you this: women don't like other women.
Well, yeah, of
I
course.
tell
But I'm telling
they
you just off social media in general. Now you're taking
it
that
just makes
already.
it worse. It just makes it
Yes,
worse. But
exactly.
women
So a
women
lot of the
don't like
times,
other women.
another thing is a lot of the times you'll see something and a girl will say, "Oh, why is she doing that?" Like they just always want to send it to their friends, and it's like, "Yo, all you're doing is watching someone else. Why do you care?" But it's told because they're sharing it in a world where nothing matters. Another yo. You know what's another thing that is big is because of social media?
What was that?
Hypersex. It just pushing a bunch of hypersexual messaging. They want us to have sex all the time. In pop culture, how
Well,
many movies? You ever watch Power?
mm-hmm.
How many unnecessary sex scenes did they have? Does 50 Cent have in his shows?
I mean, it's almost every single episode. It seems
The
like there's at
character,
least
look, the
one
characters will,
graphic sex scene.
yeah, the characters will be meeting to find out how to cover up a murder. Next thing you know, their clothes are off. Like, what does that have to do with helping you solve? I honestly think that's make. Wouldn't that be logically wasting more time?
Hmm.
And wouldn't you wait for pleasure until you're clear off a murder charge?
Well, you
But
think so?
even in the music, heavy drug use, we would just talk, everything connects, like we say, the matrix, like we were just talking about Painkillers. Now you got kids, suburban or even kids, middle class, African American kids or just kids in general, no matter, yep, exactly. They fake tough guys because a lot of these people in person won't do anything. But back to what I was saying, um, you got a lot of people on the internet that want to be a voice of reason and they don't know what they're talking about. You also have the people that, what is it? I think what, okay, let me scratch that off the brain. What I really wanted to say is now social media gives everyone a sense of belonging, like you said. They only stay within their communities that make them comfortable. And within those communities, you all happen to agree on the same thing. So, like you just spoke from wise word from Senior Lawson, a lot of people don't want to be wrong. Social media creates a very opinionated place.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Your
remember
pops
when
is right.
I remember, so the rapper Styles P, he said, "Look, I post things I want on my social media board. Not everything is for you to comment and chime in." And all the comments were like, "Well, don't put it in a social place." Well, even if I make a statement out loud in person, I don't want to hear your opinion. The same principle will apply to I'm on social media. Just because I go through the network doesn't mean my morals and principles change.
Hmm.
And a lot of people just want to fight. The biggest thing that they're always talking about is these vaccines. You know, in pop culture, it's like pro-vax or no-vax. When people already made up their minds, you just sit there and just blame other people. You blame. I notice in this country with social media, they love to place the blame. No one ever likes taking accountability. But you know what's funny? They want to place the blame on each other when Marcus, that's like me placing the blame on you when I know you have no power to change anything. But the people in power who do are the movers and the shakers are blinded by their nice pictures on social media holding a dog and these stupid trends, especially with, oh, everything has to be a certain trend. Oh, what a strong black woman. Oh, this person's so strong they survived mental illness. It's like a
That's
whole
a
place.
whole nother. That's a whole nother category
I,
right there.
but
We can go
like to
into.
say, I like to just say all that to say that it gives people this sense of, I gotta receive praises for doing nothing. This is the super soft era, and this is coming from social media. You can't tell the truth even in the slightest way, even if you're not talking about other things going on in the world. You just can't tell people the truth. Like you can't tell a girl who likes to put a lot of sexual things on Instagram, always showing their butts, always showing something, always referencing sex. You're not allowed to tell them the hard conversation. Maybe you
Well,
may
here,
have.
how about we'll save the sex one for next week. How about that one?
Oh no, I was
That's
just
that's
saying
a
that. Okay, yeah, we
whole
could take that.
category
So
we can go
I'll
into.
get back into cancel culture. Dave Chappelle, I know you spoke about it on the Political Matrix.
Hmm.
So without I think 10,000 or 1,000 transgender employees were
Oh,
want to
see,
do a walkout.
yeah, that's what I say.
The
We'll save it because. we're at about
So
2:30, and I need to stop and have some dinner. So, um,
I think
we'll talk some more. We'll talk some more later on. Probably
yeah,
if I have time after I eat, I'll call you because got to be up in
I'll
the
be up.
morning.
Yeah.
But oh,
See, I kind
also
of got in my zone. I started flowing. I'm
also,
sorry, guys.
hey, if you guys want, actually, you know what? Everybody in the chat, if you guys want Jay to come on tomorrow, also let him know because he's going to be doing. Not only we'll have our show weekly where it's just me and him, but if you guys want Jay to hop on and do some live streams throughout the week, please put a one in the chat. If you
Yeah, let
guys
me know. Let me know.
let him know how much you guys enjoying my new co-host because you guys are going to see Jaylen more often. Every week we're at least going to have this live stream. Um, he's also probably going to be joining me on some of my Hebrew apologetics also, and I'm going to make a setup time that'll be on Saturdays. And so he will be joining me on some of those also. Wesley has there's one from Wesley. Jaylen is an informed youngster. Yes, bring him
Thank you,
back.
Thomas.
Thomas, yes. So in fact, when I get off, what I'm gonna do, actually, you know what? I don't even if you're in a good flow right now. Hey, actually, are you able? Do you see the end broadcast on yours on your end?
All I see is Leaf Studio.
Okay. Well, what I will do is um I'm gonna actually let me know. Actually, I'm gonna hop off. I'm gonna let you keep going. You guys want
Okay.
Jaylen to keep going? If you
Yeah, I
guys
can
want
keep
Jaylen to
going.
keep going, let,
Are
let
you?
let me know. And
Yeah.
then what I'll do is you just shoot me a text whenever you want me to hop on and end it. Because I gotta get some dinner in me. Uh,
Yeah, I would
get all
love
my
to keep
stuff
going. There's
prepared for
actually a lot
work in the
more I'd like to
morning.
share.
Because I gotta work in the morning, so I gotta get my stuff prepared for work and everything. I already got a shower out of the way. But yeah, if you guys want Jaylen to keep on going on this
Okay.
live stream,
Well, Wesley said
give
he'll
give
stick
him
around, so
give
all I
him
need is
give
one
him the
to get started.
encore. Oh,
Okay,
he
yeah.
says he
Wesley
says
said
he'll
he's
stick
there.
around.
I want you.
But
Oh,
um,
perfect.
but yeah, we got my brother Atras. He says yes. So sure, I'll be
Okay, no
back.
worries.
Oh
No
yeah,
worries, Thomas.
they want you to. Hey, popular demand. They want you to keep going, Jay. And I'm gonna send you the
I'm thankful.
after actually tomorrow send me a text tomorrow and when you want to get in all I have to do is send you the email like how your pops does. I'll send you
Hmm.
the email and then after you have the email address login in the StreamYard, all I have to do is you text me and I'll email you. Well, it'll give me an email and then I'll give you the code and then you'll be able to log right in and you'll be able to set the stream for
Hmm.
whatever time that you want to get in and start streaming. Let me know also. That way I can tweet it out on my on my social medias also and through the Discord and everything, and let you roll a
Hmm.
little bit longer. Misha, he has the role. Got says gotta wake early. Yeah, I'm the same thing. I gotta eat, get some food in me, all that. But I see Thomas is down,
Hmm.
Arturus is down, Wesley's down. So yeah, hey, just keep rolling and don't run through all the good topics. Actually, even if you do, we can still bring them up next week. But yeah, I got to sign off. Misha has to sign off. And thank you all for being in. Thank you all for showing Jaylen so
Thank
much
you.
love. This is his official debut show. So if this kid is already rocking like this on his first official show, no, he's had a couple of features, but I don't really. That's kind of like that's warming up. But you guys don't know what you have in store for you the next couple of weeks as we get going a little bit further. But thanks, Jaylen, for joining me. I'm gonna hop out
Thank you for
right
the
now.
opportunity, Marcus.
But yeah, just shoot me a text whenever you're ready. Whenever you want me to
Okay.
hop on and end it, and then I'll come back and end it.
Okay.
Alrighty, brother.
All right,
I'll
Marcus.
let you later. All right. Good night.
Mm. Hi, what's going on, guys? So, I think we can pick up where we left off. Still see a couple of everybody in the chat. So what I really was trying to get at, what Marcus was trying to keep me from giving all the goodies, was really just the effects on we can just even say gender. Now, in society, we kind of had a set thing for genderized roles. Maybe the man brought home the money and the woman took care of the household and the children. Now, with the influence of social media, now there's like roles that are defined by the internet. People want internet things, they don't want real life interactions. They take so, for instance, relationships. A lot of people want relationships they see their favorite celebrities have, or just live by quotes on the internet. When that doesn't take in real situation, relationships, sacrifices, different circumstances, or even just have the same finances. You want to live in a world that doesn't exist because social media told you it was cool and they got people to like your post. But all it does is create isolation. I know, as a young man trying to hit up girls, it's so much awkward trying to talk to someone over a Snapchat or a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, because they're already looking down on you. Especially the ones that frequently get attention, they feel as if, oh, you're just another one. Oh, you're bothering me, or you're just doing too much. You're being too nice. Whereas a lot of the times, if the person just said what was on their mind in person, it would have been a total different response rather than, oh, you're being weird, you're a creep, oh, I don't want to link up with you. But you kind of have to be more directive, whereas you could be in person, you could play around, you can get a play for tone, and now you don't have an understanding. So a lot of interactions come off weird. So a lot of people don't interact just based off a conversation on social media when that's not even a real person. Half the time on social media, you're trying to do something that you wouldn't normally do to show off maybe your best skills or something, whatever the case may be. Another thing with cancel culture, oh, to jump to cancel culture rather, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but they'll try to cancel anything. Especially, I've noticed, I'm sure Marcus have noticed, they'll cancel you for anything. And they always say it's the land of the free, home of the brave, your First Amendment right, all that right wing things. But you don't have freedom of speech. You speak about the vax, you speak about lid 19, and you get taken down, you get strikes. Look, R. Kelly, they're canceling him. Where I don't condone any child predatory things, I don't condone that. But as far as the man's music, he was actually extremely gifted. But yet, people can't, because of the cancel culture and the lens, it's popular to do this. I mean, they're not killing him, but you know, hard to find them in the wild and nowadays DMs only. Yep, yeah, I feel you. But oh, I think I got sidetracked. I lost my main thought. But they can't. Oh yeah, R. Kelly. They can't separate his music from the things he did outside. I'm not saying that justifies anything by any means. No, he's a sick man. We should really be looking into why he's so sick. Because hurt people always hurt people. It's a pattern of the abuse turn to abuser. But they can't decipher that from the music. So if I go and post R. Kelly's music, that automatically means I support child rape when the man's music was just nice. I don't condone that. You can separate it. But now in social media, it kind of forces you to pick a side when maybe you don't even have a knife in the battle. You don't really care. You can't share your own comments because there is someone else who's going to tell you why you should feel a certain way when they don't even know why they're feeling a certain way. They feel a certain way off of something they read on a Twitter feed. And another thing with cancel culture is who and what is normally being canceled. Like I know the biggest things you can't really say anything about and or you'll risk fear of cancellation is the homosexual community, the Jewish community, and well, I'd say those are really the two biggest ones. But I remember specifically, I think LeBron James was on an Instagram video and he had a 21 Savage lyric playing in the back that he was reciting, and he says, "We getting that Jewish money, everything kosher." And then a few hours later, LeBron's at a press conference giving an apology for being anti on such a. Ooh, I'm reading your comment now, Wesley. Yes, lots of tangents on such a nasty pinwheel. Teens are vicious with rejection and insults. I can only imagine what social life in school must be like now for anyone that's not pretty. Actually, I just graduated high school. I can say COVID changed. I'd say my last year and a half of school was a little different with COVID, but in the years of normalcy growing up, kids got bullied. I'd say capital Bullied, especially with the emergence of Snapchat. One thing that was big in my era was your leaking or sharing of your sexual nude pictures. So girls would take pictures of themselves, or guys, would expose themselves for somebody they like, or somebody they were messing around with. And next thing you know, your info was all around school. Everyone's seen your private areas, and then the police are called, and it just becomes a big mess. But that's something you have to worry about. As much as you want to give your kids, their space, I am a firm believer as as a 19-year-old, you know, my with parents, I have to fight with my mom's like, all right, mom, I'm getting older. We tend to think we're grown, but a lot of the times we just want to be able to go out. But as you get older, you start to see certain things. So the biggest thing I can really say is what I'm trying to convey is that you parents also have to watch their teenagers, because as much as you want to give your kid the leash, the room as they're getting older, but still as their younger days, still monitor their social media, make sure they're not doing things they're supposed to do, because maybe they just don't know, but you should be monitoring, especially if you have a teenager. In this era, they're most likely lying to you and not telling you the whole truth about what's going on. And the internet, I wouldn't say is a scary place, but me personally, I probably wouldn't allow my child to have his social media. Not because I don't think they can handle it, just it would be better, more beneficial for their brain. Kids, it's kids can read all these things on social media, watch these TikTok brainless videos for hours, but can't read. I had a run-in with a little kid in the grocery store, and we were in the same aisle, and she was a friend of mine. She was a friend of a friend, and I was pretty cool with her, so I knew her enough to make a joke. We were getting hot sauce, and I saw her there, and I was like, "Oh, hello, how you doing?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm looking for hot sauce too." And I was like, "Oh, how you doing?" She's an 11-year-old girl, by the way, and she's on her phone watching a TikTok while she's looking for hot sauce. And she tells me the hot sauce, "Oh, that's Hot Louisiana hot sauce," and it says Hot Louisiana sauce. But the funniest thing was I tell her, yo, you on your phone all the time. You haven't figured out how to read. It may have seemed now, if you speak like that, it seemed as an insult or a put down. When really, in all seriousness, I was asking a dead serious question. Because if you're able to read text messages and do all these other things, there's no reason why you can't comprehend what's in a book. There's no reason for it. A lot of the younger generation ages between like 11 and 13, these kids are, I wouldn't say are dumb. They are bright, but they just lack the common sense and just regular skills that maybe my generation was able to get because we didn't have social media. I know so many kids in my younger brother's generation that don't even know how to ride a bike, which is funny because my dad, the 80s babies parents, were big on. My father always used to say, "Oh, we never had video games. Like we always went outside." To now, even recognizing we went outside at a much more significant amount than the generations to follow. So just showing how it's keeping us more indoors and on these apps. Oh, I'm looking at your comment now, Wesley. Yeah, it's tricky being a parent means you have to be a dictator sometimes. You know, I'd say I totally understand that, even though I'm not a father or not close to being that. I can understand a lot where parents are coming from. I know you just want to be safe, but I'm also a firm believer in not believing, well, not believing, but not buying into fear. I feel like the best way to show a kid is to, whenever they get to the age where they're mentally mature, you kind of give it to them in pieces and teach, and also trust the lessons you teach, because regardless, at some point when you're a dictator, all it's going to do is push your kid out more and will make them want to do different things. Like I can say, just as an experience as a teenager, whenever my mom would, or my dad, or whoever was in charge would be more strict or just do things unnecessarily, it made me just want to just go out, not because I even wanted to do something, but that's just the dumbness in teenagers. That's why there's such headaches. But I'd say you have to trust if you really giving your kid the lessons and you can tell they're listening. I'd say the biggest thing is give them in doses, and still check up on them. But the biggest thing has to be really trust your teachings. But another point I wanted to make with social media is it's the biggest waste of time. How many people sit home and are bored on their phones all day? They can't tell you anything interesting. They can't even tell you the weather without their phone looking it up for them. But they can show you all the dumb videos on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and it kills social interaction with a conversation. How many friends have you guys in the audience, or just me personally, maybe had to let go because they couldn't outgrow what they wanted to be through social media? Only conversations that sparked interest were those on social media. I remember when it used to be, oh, you remember that? Or you remember that fight? Did you actually go see it? No, I couldn't see it. You couldn't get the video online. So it was really word to mouth. Now everything has to be you prove it, because your first instinct is to grab your camera and just start recording. You're keeping it with you. And then memories, that's why time also really doesn't feel so long ago. Well, I would scratch that. Time feels so long because you're always reminded of something with your phone. It's always telling you, oh, a year ago, a few months ago. So it's always making you see back. So now it's like, dang, a lot of time passed. But when you get off your phone, you realize you had so much time to do other things and you're wasting it. Like that's why sometimes when people say, "I'm so bored," I get frustrated. Well, I shouldn't say frustrated. I laugh really, because you can't think of anything productive to do but go on your phone. That means you aren't bored. That means you're just too picky. And lastly, I'd say the biggest thing to wrap it up is just probably the biggest thing is pushing sexual activity and thoughts on our children through social media. Now everything has a sex, it has a race, it has specific identified parts. I remember when that wasn't even thought of. They got rid of Mr. Potato Head because of gender equality and things like that, when that wasn't even a topic of discussion. As kids, we were told to cover our eyes when a sex scene came on. Now it's kids at 3 years old, 4 years old knowing about sex. Whereas I feel kids are growing up too fast and everything has become more serious because of these apps, where it used to be, kids could be kids. They used to say kids could be a kid, stay a kid as long as you want. But at least in my era, I don't feel like we got to be kids that long. I feel like we had to grow up more in the sense of, you had the standard you set on yourself of where you wanted to be in social media. And not only that, you're exposed to way more things than you normally would be before social media. But I'd like to wrap it up. I think it's been 2 hours and 45 minutes. I've rambled on. I don't want to use all the good juices for the show, but I will say thank you guys for being here. It was appreciate you guys coming out, spending your last few hours, whether you were working or whatever things you guys decided to do. Appreciate you guys taking the time out to spend it with us. 1 second. Just wanted to say thank you for coming to join us. I know we ramble on, especially me. I just keep going. I'm not even using correct grammar. I'm just excited to share this information with somebody, you know. But we hope to bring good things in the future, a lot of interesting things. And one thing I really wanted to do with this channel, and Marcus and I have had talks, is really just give you conversations based on every aspect of life. Sometimes people feel like the only way to be informed is only through politics, when someone knowing they're red or blue doesn't scream intelligence. When it screams intelligence, that you know what are in your foods, you aware of what's going on, you're aware of the powers that be. It's not just all one dual-sided fight between red or blue, or getting stuck in the matrix. There's different things going around you. Gas prices, that's something we could talk about. Economics, minimum wage. And if you guys are just seeing things that are going on in your daily lives or communities or areas, don't feel afraid to share it in the comments and let us know what you're thinking. Because 9 times out of 10, we're probably talking about the same thing in our private conversations. So we want to also make this where it's community environment friendly, where you guys can bounce some ideas or give us something to talk about, just to dive into different topics that maybe I'm not all the way knowledgeable in, or maybe Marcus needs to know. And then also, it's crossing a bridge with different generations. You have the older group, you have the younger group. We can bring an audience together. Just try to figure out what's going on here, you know? Well, Marcus, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I mean, great points
What?
there. I mean, I listened a little
We're
bit
losing
while I
young
was.
Morpheus.
Can you hear me? Let's see. Can you hear me? Let me turn it up a little. Can you hear me now?
Um,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Jaylen, can you hear me? Let me try that again. Jaylen, can you hear me?
hey, Marcus, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You ready to end? Well, I guess he can't hear me, everyone. Hopefully, you guys can hear. But thank you all for joining us and tuning in. And it's been fun. But gotta go. You all have a good one. I'll talk to you all later.